Thank you for coming to the school committee tonight. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first order of business, we have a public hearing on the agenda, but do we want to move, I'll ask the board, do we want to move the 2 trips up earlier so we could get that, if there's anybody here that wants to do the 2 trips, and
We got one person who wants to do it. You know, they
we
want
got
to.
Mike, all right.
Where are they?
Is everybody here that needs to be here to do
Yes.
that?
They're way
Yep.
down late.
Way down. So do I have a motion to move them up?
No, 6.
And second it, Mrs. Burgess seconds it. All those in favor? Unanimous. We'll just move both of them up to the top here, and we'll start right away with Plymouth South High School overnight field trip request.
Yes, I think I can take this one. This is a field trip for March 9th through the 11th. This is actually down at the Cape at the Highness Resort Conference Center, and this is for the student councils, and it is down on the Cape. This is not out of state, but it's an overnight. So this is for school councils. It's a yearly trip that they do, and I believe the reason why it's on tonight is because they typically come on a 3-year cycle.
Okay.
So tonight, this is an annual event that students go, and it's part of their obligation for being part of their committee.
They did very well last year.
They did,
right?
yes, very well.
So, Dr.
I
Sorensen,
assume this comes with your recommendation?
Yes, it does.
I move the recommendation of administration.
thank you. And seconded by Ms. Badger. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Next trip is for North and South High out-of-state field trip request.
And tonight, we have
That's the band.
Mr. Capel. He's here to present.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
How you doing?
We have 2 students who auditioned and got into a new Southern New England regional band competition. It's at the University of Rhode Island, January 29th and 30th. It's not an overnight trip. It is 2 days, and they will be transported each day back and forth. There's no real need to stay over. It's very close. This is a new opportunity that 2 students took advantage of under the direction of their musical directors. They auditioned, they were honored, they got in, and it's a great opportunity for these students, and we were just notified of this last week, so we wanted to get it before you as quickly as possible. Richard Massey from Plymouth North and Quinn Woodworth from Plymouth South High School are the honored students.
Very good. Any
Questions or concerns?
questions or concerns? Yeah, move it, please. Moved it, seconded it. Ms. Badger seconds it. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Got those 2 out of the way. Now we'll open the public hearing on the budget. Is there anybody here that would like to address the school committee, either in favor or in opposition to our budget suggestions? Okay, seeing nobody, I will close the public hearing and move on to bring it back to the board and discuss the operating budget itself. And Dr. Maestas, you want to key that up?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and kick things off. I think there was a lot of information that we reviewed with the committee and the general public, and also the members of the Finance Committee Subcommittee for Education. In the past few days, we've had an opportunity to field questions. We will be meeting, Mr. Costa and myself, and perhaps Mr. Begley, if he chooses, we'll be meeting with the subcommittee again to review any specific questions that they have as far as any of the details of the budget. We've had an opportunity to take some questions from the general public, and they seem to be questions relative to full day K, not necessarily the overall budget. So the questions really are stemming from some people thought we had full day K across the board already, and to them it was kind of eye-opening that we didn't. to wanting more information on the funding and the Chapter 70 impact that it would have over the duration of, or the full implementation of the program. And then we've also had some other questions regarding when it would start. And, you know, the whole idea of it starting, if it does pass, it'll start in September. If we can, I'd like to show you a quick little video that we've put together, and we'll be including a series of videos. And after this video, I'll inform you of our timeline of information that we're going to send out to the general public. So, Kristen, if you could.
A full-day kindergarten program provides the opportunity for all. A full-day kindergarten program provides the opportunity for all children to be successful. That's what we want. We want a foundation that all children are on the same level. They're working together, they have the same start, and so by the end of the year and throughout their career, they have the tools that they need to be successful.
Full-day kindergarten is not just babysitting. It's actually educating the kids before they get into first grade, second grade, third grade, their ABCs, their colors, their shapes, their numbers. It's preparing them for the future.
Full Day K allows students to have longer times to learn. And not only do they have longer times to learn, but they have a more variety of educational experiences.
I used to teach half day, and now I'm teaching the full day program. And I see, first of all, that they are definitely learning a lot more independence, because they now have to learn, you know, to come to school, learn the routine, go to lunch, go to specialist. They have a lot more responsibility. So I find that they're becoming more independent learners, they're becoming more responsible, and they are having a lot more opportunity to learn the curriculum.
Keeping the kids engaged, I think 2.5 hours is too short for a half-day program. My kids were in preschool before, and they were spending 4 hours. So for them to go to a 4-hour program and then have it reduced to a 2.5-hour program, there's simply not enough time in the school day for the teachers to accomplish everything that they need to, get them prepared for the next level.
I didn't have the benefit of going to kindergarten, so going into first and second and third grade, I felt like I was always behind. I think the benefits of full-day kindergarten have to do with building confidence in kids as they get into higher grades.
Kindergarten should have a strong component of developmental play. Learning through play is a big piece for our 5-year-olds. And so it's experience. And the more time they have to be part of those experiences, when they come to first grade, when it is much more academic, they're ready to hit that first grade curriculum.
Research shows that it boosts the achievement of those students. So for in reading, math, and writing, by the end of the year, kindergarten students are where they need to be. They are ready to enter first grade because they have that strong conceptual knowledge of the first grade curriculum.
We lag behind other countries in education, and we need to be the leaders in that. And by having all-day kindergarten, that will put us in the lead.
So what we did is shortly after the budget presentation and questions that parents had on the full day K presentation, we actually sat down with the elementary principals and kind of laid out all the questions. You know, what do we need to answer for the community? You know, we talked about educational benefit. We talked about you know, what's the difference between the full day K, half day K. So we came up with a variety of questions. We did this teaser that will go out on social media tonight. And then we have planned to do a series of informational videos that will go out. So we'll do 3 short videos that we'll share with the community, and it will be almost like interviews with people that, some of our staff that actually work with our full day K students, and like Ms. Walsh, who was on the video, what her experience was with the half-day program transitioning to a full-day program. We'll interview parents and talk about their experiences. We'll have principals talking about the curriculum and the differences between the half-day and full-day K program. We'll also have an opportunity to do a roundtable where we'll have people come around, and we'll have one of our principals, Dr. Frayne, is actually going to have a roundtable discussion with people that are involved with full-day K and how they have responded to the full day K transitions that we've made over time. So we will be sending this information out to the general public. We're also going to develop a frequently asked questions worksheet that we'll have forwarded to all our town meeting members in case they have any questions regarding the full day K piece and the funding model, because I know there are some questions about that. So hopefully we can answer a lot of the questions that people will have regarding the program methodology, pedagogy, and funding. So hopefully people will have a good sense of what this program is all about.
This is very good. A lot of hard work went into that. Can we make sure that we get maybe a email out to all the town meeting members
Absolutely.
with the links
Yep.
to these and other information, like the public meeting we had? If I sent that link to all the selectmen and everything so that they could see both our meetings and the whole discussion with the public concerning because they were still questioning what the program was and everything, and it was almost 3 hours of discussion there, so I sent them the links so that they could find it and jump around as well.
I think the full day K presentation, if the general public has an opportunity to watch that meeting, there's a lot of information there.
Yeah.
And a lot of the questions they had regarding funding, it's part of that presentation. The information we'll be sending out after tonight and periodic until April, we'll have a lot more detailed information that people were asking that night. So hopefully we can answer the questions.
Very good.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions? Ms. Badger?
So I'm thinking that this is positive and it's going to go through, but will we do a application just in case? Will we do an application just in
Yes,
case?
we met and we discussed that, and we will have a process in place to fast track selection in case we can't pass, in case it doesn't pass. We will move forward with the process and move things along very quickly, get kids screened, get them placed. But that will be our plan B.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
For the lottery, you mean?
Yes.
Dr. Sorensen?
Perhaps I'm a little bit too pessimistic, and I hope I am. But in anticipation that town meeting does not fund the budget as we presented it, because perhaps it doesn't get a recommendation from finance, or it doesn't get a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen, and town meeting decides not to fund the budget, and they decide to reduce the budget by an amount equal to what it costs to fund full day K. Are we prepared to raise full day K to a high priority and replace something else in the budget?
I think one of the things that since this became part of our mission and goal to include it into the budget, that was one of the first things that I discussed with my immediate staff. The problem that you have with reducing our budget outside of full day K is it's much more than the $1.4 million of full day K, because now you have unemployment and you have all those benefits that come with laying people off. So it's basically two for one. So we'd have to figure out exactly what that costs. It's much more than 1.4 million when you start reducing a budget. So the impact would be significant, Dr. Sorensen. We'd basically be reducing all our other programs in the district to introduce another program. And I think that would be a discussion that we'd have to have.
Right. I think that's a very important response, Dr. Maestas. It's an important response because it tells anybody who wants to know that there's no room in the budget, actually. There's no room in the budget to absorb full day K. That's the point I wanted to be made. Thank you.
Very good. Any other comments? What about the budget itself? We've had more than a week to chew on it. I'm sorry?
I said it's pretty lean, the regular budget, yeah.
Does anybody have any, since we have all the players here tonight, does anyone have any follow-up questions they thought of that they'd like to take the opportunity? Not just the full day K, but the entire budget. Is there anything else in there? Dr. Sorensen.
One of the things that was shocking to us, certainly shocking to me during the presentation, was McKinney-Vento and special education increases. Do we anticipate any relief?
I think both of these topics have been raised to the priority at the state level with our legislators. McKinney-Vento, I think, has a high level of interest to look at more support for it. Special education is always on the radar, and it's very difficult because those costs are tied to mandate. So, but in both of those, I really don't see a lot of relief down the pike. If there is a change to any of the reimbursement formulas that support both of those initiatives, it's going to take quite a bit of lobbying to make that happen, because both of them are tied to formulas. So Chapter 70 is one aspect that'll help the town because it's reimbursement, and then circuit breaker is another one, which that has a formula that really is triggered based on the amount of money you spend and the type of profile of student that we have qualification for circuit breaker. Keep in mind, it's only a percentage of the cost for extraordinary special education expenses, which can be very difficult because we are very susceptible to that. And if you look at our budget increases that are significant over the last 5 years, special education and McKinney-Vento have been in that category for all these years. So I know that in the last 3 years we have received some McKinney-Vento relief, but it's still not at the level of complete reimbursement. And keep in mind that these are really tied to mandates, and the mandates are significant. Like Dr. Halpin mentioned, it's an ongoing transition for us as a district, and we have quite a few students that are falling into those categories.
Yep.
Just-
Ms. Hunt.
Just a little insight, I actually met with Representative Clark about a week and a half ago, and she talked about McKinney-Vento a lot, and it is being discussed, but you know how quickly the government works. They're actually talking, and Dr. Halpin might know more about this, they're actually talking about now that it might be beneficial to acclimate these students into the communities that they're living in now, and not busing them back and forth, and there's a lot of discussion around it. But I don't believe there's an actual bill in place, but there's a lot of things are being talked about being presented next year. So I think that it might change down the line, but as far as affecting this budget, it won't go into it. But there is a lot of talk about changing it, according to Representative Clark.
What we can do is keep you abreast of any changes. I know that town management would be very interested in looking at any other relief measures that can take place. I mean, Chapter 70 has been a constant source for remediation, where many legislators have asked for a look at that and a revisit to Chapter 70. McKinney-Vento is a relatively new reimbursement model, and also special education and the circuit breaker formula is one that you will probably find in MASC's recommendations and for review on an annual basis. So those are hot button topics. They're tied to the budget, to the state budget. Communities are struggling with it. Plymouth is, like everyone else, we have the same mandates that we have to follow, but we're a larger district, so our costs are significant. Our transportation costs for McKinney-Vento are significant. Our special education costs, it has a lot to do with the size of the district transportation wise. It's a heavy burden for the budget.
Any other questions or concerns? Ms. Badger?
I know, I'm looking forward to my notes right now, but I know I sent it to Dr. Maiasis, the savings for that PAC, Pilgrim Area Collaborative, sent us, that we're saving, was it like $50,000 or something like that a year going with the PAC? So
One of the things, and
cost saving.
to respond, and Ms. Badger brings up an interesting observation based on her involvement with PAC, because now you sit on the board and so on, and not everyone gets an opportunity to really understand how collaboratives work. We are part of Pilgrim Area Collaborative like other collaboratives, and by being part of a collaborative, we're able to combine resources through all the school districts that are actually that work and use their services to get them at a reduced rate, because they provide services that are closer, more convenient, and they really fit the needs of the students that, of programs that they run. So what Ms. Badger is referring to is by us being part of the collaborative that she sits on the board at, we're able to save, through estimate, around $50,000 a year if we would have sent those students out to a traditional program. And I would say that's probably a light estimate.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that our special
Just an
education
average
program
of-
is looking at a number of different avenues to try to save money, not because it's cheap or a cost savings, but it's a great fit for the individual. So a lot goes into a placement, a lot goes into funding these programs, but our goal, and I'll tell you more times than not, parents, I mean, it's distance to programs, it's convenience, it's the quality of program, and I think Pilgrim Area Collaborative has been a great partner for us. They've helped us to reduce some costs. And they also look at opportunities to cost share, in the sense that if we have transportation and you have an individual from one part of town going to a program, or another community going to a program, we look at how we would actually save on transportation by cost sharing that transportation model. So I think the observation on the collaborative is well taken, because not only do we do it with the collaborative that you mentioned, but with other programs to try to reduce cost.
Okay, I don't have anything specific on the budget. I want to take a moment to thank all of the staff for working so hard to bring in the budget the way we have, especially mentioned the last meeting, Mr. Costin and his organization. So with that, this is an action item. Do I have a motion? Mrs. Burgess?
I move that we adopt the budget as presented and as the school committee had voted for.
And Mr. Morgan?
I'll second.
And a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay,
Thank you.
very good. So, anybody who would now like to depart
There they all go.
can, except for Patrick.
They were here in case of questions.
We'll just give them a minute or two to
Clear.
leave the room.
They didn't waste a minute, did they?
Okay. So now, comments from community members. Do I see any community members that would like to address the school committee tonight? Nope, okay. All right. So then, we're going to start with Olivia. I think you have our South High School report.
Alrighty. Hello, Olivia Morrow, Plymouth South student. I'm filling in for Veronica Holmes tonight. So, first, these are Veronica's notes. We would like to congratulate all of our students who attended the honors breakfast last Tuesday and Wednesday, and thank all the parents who took time out of their busy schedules to be with us. Panther TV made a segment about the progress of the new Plymouth South to share with parents during the breakfast. That went really well, got a lot of parents interested. Last week, our winter sports seasons began. We can't wait to see how our teams do this season. During the month of December, different clubs provided baked goods for the main office that staff can take for a donation. Through this, we raised $745 for families in need in our community this holiday season. Last week, AP orientation night went very well, with a great turnout for both students and parents from both high schools. On Friday, students and staff were encouraged to wear purple and donate toiletries and other supplies to support victims of domestic violence. On our most recent half day, we held a hat day in which students purchased stickers to allow them to wear hats in school for the whole day to benefit RSD, reflex sympathetic dystrophy, for research. This disease can develop after injuries causing lifelong chronic pain, there is currently no known cure for RSD. Our athletic boosters held a mud run a couple weeks ago, which was the last event on our football field before they began replacing it as a part of the new Plymouth South. The mud run was a lot of fun for everyone, also a feature on Panther TV. Great job to our both of our choruses, which had a winter concert a couple weeks ago. The students have worked really hard and we're really proud of their work. And last, we're very excited for the band and strings concert tomorrow at Plymouth North at 7:00 p.m., which will involve instrumentalists from both of our schools and Plymouth South Middle. And that's all I have today.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for stepping in on short notice like that. Thank you very much.
I was happy to do it. I enjoyed
Thank you.
Thank you. Isabel, North?
So 2 of our advisories, Mr. Brunos and Mr. Perlos, are collecting bottles each week for recycling. So last year they collected 10,000 bottles, so this year our goal is to triple that. We also had our annual Powder Puff game in November, and the junior class were the winners. And at the PBS Quiz Bowl, we had 4 students attend: Griffin McNamee, Casey Letrande, Mabel Rourke, and Leanne Urinick. And they came out with a score of 845, so we're very proud of them for participating. And on November 21st, we had 18 of our student musicians audition for spots in the Southeastern Massachusetts Music Educators Association's District Chorus, Band, Orchestra, and Jazz. And this is a very competitive program, and hundreds of students try out, and we had 9 of our students accepted. Wow. So we had Sarah Sorella, Kayla Wally, Julia McBride, Ross Atherton, Mike Ruscio, Rosa D'Ambrosia, and Zane Karam in chorus, and then Chris Nolan and Kylie Smith in the orchestra. And then we also had a few students qualify for the Ulstate auditions, Julia, Rosa, Zane, Chris, and Kylie. So they'll be performing at the Symphony Hall this March. So we're very excited for them.
Very good.
On December 1st, we had our National Honor Society induction ceremony. So we had 65 new members. And we also created this new thing where advisories can donate money, and then we have game and school event tickets in the guidance, so then people who can't afford the tickets can go down to guidance and get a free ticket for school events. And we also have the giving tree and a donation box in the library, so we're hoping to get a lot of donations this year. And the Plymouth North community would like to wish everyone a happy and healthy new year.
Very good. Thank you, both of you. Thank you very much. Old business. Anybody? God bless you.
Sorry, that was loud. Tried to keep
Anybody have any updates? Or if not, we'll move on to new business. I know we have some new business tonight.
Yeah, I just have 2 things that I'd like to put on the radar. I was at a Plymouth South Middle School, oh my God, school council, there's my word. And we had a parent who was talking about he had gotten an update or he had read an article about the Google was cataloging children's information. And I know that's if it's a concern for one parent, it's probably a concern for a lot of people. And I mean, they catalog all our information if we have our own Gmail. So I just thought we should bring it up. And I know I talked to Dr. Myasis before, and he might have a response for.
Sure. I think one of the concerns that people have with using online appliances and online repositories for information, and now you take a look at Google and students using Google, there's a segment of the population that has started to think, what are they doing with all this information? So what I would suggest is that we have Julia Colby come in front of the committee and explain exactly how the Google Enterprise package that we have for education, how it works, and the information that is shared and isn't shared, how we protect our students. So I think that would be valuable information to share with the committee so that when people ask the questions, we have a consistent answer. And on top of that, we use other programs where kids sign up for different programs that we use, and those are cloud-based. So we probably, can include, when we're collecting information on students, who has access to it, what it's used for, and how does it really help to facilitate what we do in the district. So I think we can have something like that come before. And also, Ms. Colby has actually prepared a document and has sent it out and is prepared to have that available in anticipation of, it's a hot topic with, you know, what's out there on Google, and a lot of districts use it. Not everyone is an enterprise Google client. So what's the difference between you as an individual logging on and establishing an account, and how does a district handle it differently? So
And
we can
then
have that.
the other piece was the team app, I guess. You have to allow it to notifications and allow it to see certain things or something within the team app that we ask our students to use for games and stuff at the high school level. So that was a concern as well. You couldn't show it to me.
Yeah, I think that's for the schedule,
Yeah.
and that's run by the MIAA.
Okay.
So it's a matter of, if you want to have the schedule downloaded into your phone, you have to allow it to access your phone. Because it downloads it, you know, uploads it into your phone so you can get that schedule. So we can investigate some of those and bring information to
Meaning
you.
it's trying to sync with your calendar?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's trying to get like your location and other things like that, I guess.
Well,
But
and-
you don't
and-
have to be okay with
Well,
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
and-
but I think he was just concerned that some students just might be like, yes, fine, whatever, you know, they don't know the ramifications of it.
I think you're absolutely right, and they probably do that with every application. You know, they want to get the thing loaded, so it's more of a user-specific,
Yeah.
user-defined situation. But
So it
again,
doesn't sync with mine.
maybe sharing information on what you should do and not do. We can
Would be
have that
helpful.
conversation.
Okay,
Thank you.
so the action item there is to have an agenda item
Yes.
added to a future meeting
Yes.
where Julia
Julia will bring that
give us the
forward.
run-through.
Yeah. And what we'll do is, what she brings and presents to you, we would share with all our staff and the students and parents. So hopefully, you know, I anticipate she'll bring some handouts or have those on electronic school board so that you have available to actually see what we do and how it's handled.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. Other new business? Yes, Dr. Sorensen?
I have a concern that I brought up before, up again this evening, and I'm bringing it up this evening because the movie on this topic comes out later on this week, and I think we're better off addressing this or putting it on our radar or agenda before the movie comes out. And I'm really concerned, and I'm glad Nurse Powers is in the room. I brought this up before about traumatic brain injury, specifically concussions. And this disorder of chronic traumatic encephalopathy was discovered in 2002. So neurologists and brain researchers have had now 13, 14 years to research this. And all of the thinking in this area now is evolving into a clear understanding that there is a direct relationship between concussions and CTE. Now, what we now know about CTE is a protein deposit that attaches itself to the tissue of the brain. And when it attaches itself to the wrong tissue, it causes microscopic deterioration that cannot be picked out with a PET scan or a CAT scan. There's new device now coming out. In fact, the highest research center in the world is in Boston on CTE. So we're fortunate we're so close to the epicenter of the world in the research on CTE. So what I think we have responsibility here, and I'll get to that in a second. This disorder is, as we know, very, very progressive. And what bothers me a little bit is when you read the MIAA literature on CTE, the literature has a paragraph about concussions with high school athletes, a very well-written paragraph saying that we have to pay attention to concussions, we have to have concussion procedures in place, evaluating, keeping kids out. The very next paragraph in the MIAA, juxtaposed against that paragraph, is, we know that CTE exists in NFL players, but they have sustained hundreds of concussions, and they probably consume alcohol, and they may have even used steroids. So that second paragraph gives the uninformed parent a chance to say, well, this is probably not going to happen to my kid because he doesn't use steroids and he doesn't drink. I think putting these two paragraphs against each other creates this sense that it's safe. Well, there have been 86 autopsies done on NFL players. Every single one of them had CTE. There was one autopsy done on an 18-year-old high school player who was deceased by another cause. but they did the autopsy on the brain and they found the beginning of CTE caused by this player's concussions. Now, someone would say to us, well, if that were the case, why don't we have thousands of high school students who played football or basketball or soccer in the 1950s and 1960s? Why aren't they all coming down with CTE? Well, what the research is showing us is our kids are bigger and stronger. And the other thing the research is showing us is they have better protection, so they feel like weapons. We saw what happened if anybody watched the Giants game this weekend, we saw what happened in the Giants game this weekend. Now, it's not just football. It's soccer, it's girls basketball, it's girls ice hockey. Those are the four biggies. What's our responsibility? Well, I'm not clear on that, but I do think that we have a responsibility for informed consent. I don't think we address informed consent. When we ask our athletes' parents to sign up to play football, we haven't given them the updated information on whether it's this risk or any other risk. We say there are risks in playing sports, but I think this is tied tighter now. And the research is much clearer now that I think we have reached this level where we need to do informed consent. What the MIAA does isn't enough from my perspective. The other thing that I think we find ourselves in a little bit of a bind is a dual relationship. I think we encourage bigger kids to hit harder, to run faster. We encourage kids to play these sports, to win scholarships in college. On one hand, we're saying, do it, you're good at it, play it. I'm not saying get rid of the sport, but that's a dual relationship as far as I'm concerned. If we're concerned about mouth guards and seat belts, you know, why aren't we concerned about traumatic brain injury? So all I'm saying is at some point, as I've already said 3 times already, we probably need to work our consent so that the uninformed parent knows what they're signing up for. And that's my report this evening.
Ms. Hunt.
Just to point out, my daughter got a concussion in cheerleading, so
Yeah.
it's everywhere. But as parents, we do have to take an online course before our students can play sports now. I don't know if it's pretty in-depth. It's a concussion thing. But again, I don't know if it explains all of the problems. I don't think you have to take it every year, or do you have to take it every year, every 2 years? So it's not recent for me. Yeah, but we do have to take we do have to do something about it.
Right.
Yeah, and it's recent.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Wasn't planned.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, for this issue.
Well, not for this issue, but, so I appreciate your comments and your concern, Dr. Sorensen. And Mrs. Hunt is correct that part of the Massachusetts concussion regulations is that every student athlete and every parent has to take an online education program every year and sign off on that. And those 2 programs are offered either through the MIAA or through the CDC, the Center for Communicable Diseases. So those 2 agencies, if you will, are the 2 that have set the educational standards for our student athletes and for our parents. Having said that, they have not updated that educational training, nor have they made the leap, the suggested leap that you're making to suggest that CTE may actually start in younger athletes. You know, I think we are lucky in that the leading institute of the world really is right here in Boston at BU, and the leading research is. I think as far as CTE, it's always been assumed to be repetitive concussions or repetitive trauma to the head over several years, but we don't look at, because it's so difficult to diagnose, you can only diagnose it on autopsy. We really don't know exactly when it starts.
Actually, that's not true. We probably within the next couple of years, we will be able to diagnose it with a protein.
Right.
TUC protein will
Yes.
tell us when it's not binding to the right place. But following what you said, I think this education program is excellent. What I'm suggesting is it needs to have more information about this particular disorder, because I think this particular brain injury is very, very serious. If you break your teeth, that's one thing. But if you're brain tissue deteriorating, that's another. So I would love to see, whether it be MIAA or locally, that in this video that we watch, we have a little bit more information so that the parent can be informed in what they're saying yes to. I think it's great.
Yeah, and
Just
we
gotta-
can
we gotta
certainly look at
update
that
it.
when we update, we'll be due to update our protocol and procedural guidelines on concussions come next summer. So I just did look at the first 3 months of our concussion statistics, which I'll be presenting to you later on in the year, and we have continued to see a significant decrease in the amount of concussions that we've seen. The September, October, and November, we're down more than 50% of the concussions we were seeing a few years ago. And in our high schools, which are the vast majority of those are related to football. So this year is the lowest number of concussions we've seen in our high school athletes who play football since we started documenting those statistics back in 2011 and 12.
So what is doing that? What is bringing it down?
Well, the regulations went into effect then with all the education and training, and we really looked when we were surprised at the number of concussions we were seeing, and we met with we being health services, the school nurses and myself met with the athletic directors and trainers and really try to look at training techniques, because a few years ago we were seeing a larger amount of concussions at one high school versus the other. And when we looked at it, there was some differences in coaching techniques and styles, and also the age and the size of the athletes involved. So your point is well taken with that. And I think so we look at that and we meet with them at least every year after the season and try to look at what we're doing right and what we can do better moving forward.
So the last time we looked at that policy was last November. Are you proposing, you put that next on the subcommittee's schedule to take another look at it, to see if you want to make any, recommend any updates?
Well, I don't know if the policy needs to be changed. I've said it 3 times. I think Nurse Powers is touching on the need for informed consent, so parents know what they're signing up for. Do you think the policy needs to be changed?
Well, in the policy, I don't think we go as far as you, a few minutes ago, when you said it 3 times, I think you were implying that, I took it that you were implying that maybe we needed to word it a little stronger so that we had a specific part of our conversation or dialogue with a parent where we were saying, here are the risks.
That's what I was saying.
And
We can
maybe the way to get to there is we have to
Policy.
put that as part of the review in the policy.
Yes, and I believe we reviewed them in 2014, so we'll be due to review them in 2016. By the mass regulations, we have to review them every 2 years.
Right.
And I think what's
that's why I
really-
was just
Some of your
asking if we wanted to
yes.
accelerate that, if we have that much of a concern for it. There's nothing stopping us.
I think what's really different now is the research is getting clearer and clearer and clearer. 3 years ago, people were still arguing that, there's no global warming, I mean, that's the metaphor.
Right,
People
right.
now recognize that this really is related to traumatic brain injury. And the University of Loyola did a great study on concussions of high school players, and they found brain swelling in over 50% of any high school athlete who had a concussion. So brain swelling isn't a bad event. So there really is much more research coming out in the last couple of years, and that's why I bring it up. And maybe it should go back to policy, and we'll make a recommendation for a better education to parents and players.
Yes.
Well, I think we're lucky that we have somebody like you on the board right
I
now.
appreciate that.
Right.
So I would appreciate it if you did put that on the review process and maybe speed up the review. Ms. Hunt?
Can I make a suggestion that maybe this is a topic for one of our forums that we had several of them last year, or now maybe even doing a video forum on it to get some more information out to the parents and discuss this? I mean, we did a few of them last year. It could even be not specifically concussion, but maybe sports health in general, and have a panel discussion. Just a thought. for parents.
You know, Dr. Campbell's working on the Parent Institute, and
Yeah.
maybe one of the breakout sessions would be, you know, brain health, topics of that nature. It's a very relevant, and I can almost guarantee after the holidays, and people see the movie, they're going to be compelled to, if they see it, from my understanding, that you're going to be compelled to be more concerned. I saw I saw an interview with the doctor that they are highlighting in the movies made after, and the information he has is significant. And what he's tried to share for many years, that he's just been kind of put to the back burner because it's a big game. Football's a big game. So are other sports. It's causing a change already. You see, and even with us and the protocols for testing. But even football coaches at the college and high school levels are coaching differently, where they teach kids to tackle differently, opposed to the way that they have leading with the head. So I think there will be significant changes, but I think this is going to change. You will see in 5 years will be completely different dynamic on how sports of this nature will be approached. I mean, even, you know, cheerleading. I mean, it happens. So.
Very good. So the takeaway there will be, we'll add that action item to follow up. Perfect.
Yes, and I think it's actually a great idea to try to incorporate, since everyone has to do that mandatory education every year, it would be easy to add a component in there that addresses that, because it's missing clearly.
It is missing, yes.
Yes. So thank you.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other new business? Reports and proposals from the superintendent.
I have a few things to report on. The video was going to be part of my presentation, but since it came up, I thought we'd just show it with the whole full day cake.
It worked good there.
Yeah, so tonight I have a number of things to report. Within the school committee agenda, you have two documents for your review when you have an opportunity. They're the ESEA. I did an overview for the local media, and I put that in there, and there's also the NSBA ESSA timetable, which is really looking at the, you know, when these implementation points have to be looked at as far as implementation. So those are there for you to review when you get an opportunity, read through them, get more, you know, get well versed in the changes. I also have tonight, I'm not sure how many of you have opened the mailbox and found this magazine.
Yes.
But if you open the magazine, you'll see that there's a Plymouth section in here of this Plymouth schools. So I invite you and the general community to open this up. We will be in every spectrum from this point forward. So we have development meetings before every edition. So we are already working on our next edition that will be out in March. And we'll have a piece on the full day K program in there, so that everyone can have an opportunity. This goes to 30,000 households, so it'll get to if you live in Plymouth and you don't see it, you probably aren't looking for it. But keep in mind that if you just look at the tab, you can see the tab with the little blue is the school section, and you can see that. If you need a copy, if you need one to give to colleagues, friends, whatever, we have some extra copies here tonight. Also, strategic plan is nearing the printing stage. Mr. Begley, we're going to get a letter from you.
Yes.
A nice long letter highlighting the beauty
Tomorrow
of the
you'll-
strategic plan. And then we created Plan on the Page, which this will go out to everyone in the district. We'll have it at town meeting, so everyone can understand. This is the condensed overview of the strategic plan. So I have copies here tonight. You can take a few with you, pass it around, and spread the good word of what we're trying to do in the district through our vision and mission statement and some of the key goals. With that said, I have just three more items. Joint meeting remember, is January 5th, and that joint meeting is with Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, School Committee. And at that meeting, I've been asked to give a brief presentation on the full day K program. So what I'll do is I'll take a small section of what we presented, not the, 3-hour of whatever we did that night, but I'll take a small section, 10, 15 minutes, talk about the full day K, the impact, and the financial model that we're proposing. And then we need to come up with a date for the school committee winter retreat. I know there's some discussion about the date changing.
Change the date. 'cause
Okay.
We have a date, right? So we need to change.
We have a date, but I think there is some discussion about maybe the date might need to change. So we probably need to throw some dates around, and I don't know, through you, Mr. Chair, I don't know what your thoughts are on changing it or whatever, so.
When it comes to calendars, I don't get involved. I will make myself available, so whoever has the conflicts, do we want to do that now? We should have done that under new business, but.
Well, the only reason why I bring it up is, I've been putting some items on the list and things that the committee we've talked about before,
Yeah.
and we need to invite people. So we just I wanna make sure we can get people to the meeting, because they'll be there for specific topics.
Right,
Okay.
okay. So why don't we do that right now, then? Are you done?
I just have one last thing, and I just.
Do your one last?
I just have,
Are you?
well, I just want to wish everyone a happy holidays, and hopefully you all get some time to enjoy
You
the
too.
family.
You
It's
too.
important.
Thank
I'm gonna try to do that. Okay.
Okay, so let's hammer out a date. Ms. Badger.
I just have a quick thought. What about the first Saturday in March? Since we're going with the first Saturday.
Later?
Yeah. Is that too late?
Why are we considering changing the date?
I think that's a
Begin
good
with?
question.
We're not gonna have a quorum,
We
it
won't
looks
be
like.
here. You won't be here.
I won't be here.
Who said I'm not here?
I thought you said last meeting.
She said I wasn't gonna be here.
Ah.
Who said?
You did last week.
No, I didn't. No, no, he did.
Okay, let's back up. Let's back up. Who's gonna be able to make the as-scheduled retreat?
What's the date again?
February 6th.
It's February 6th. You can, we've got a show of hands. Okay, show of hands. I can make it. So we have probably 3.
I just counted 4.
4 to 7.
4.
Well, I'm throwing in Mrs. Betts, who is, I'm gonna count her as a no-show unless I hear
Oh, okay.
otherwise.
Gotcha. I thought you were counting the other way around.
Normally I would, but I have stopped doing that.
But you have 3 not coming, so 3.
3 not coming,
Not
so I still
coming.
have a quorum, but the point of a retreat is for us all to interact and to share some.
How about the next
When
one?
is our next
Educational.
regular meeting?
How about the 13th?
Our next regular is,
January 4th.
yes, January 4th and 5th. Why don't we have 4th and 5th?
5th is
The
the
selectmen.
selectmen.
Oh, I knew that. This is why I don't do calendars, all right. And then after that is the 25th.
Yeah.
For me, if you moved it back to the 16th, it would be good. Or if you went up to February 13, 20, 27, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I can do any other February Saturday.
But
I
you have
just-
no.
I can do any other February Saturday as of now. I just can't do the 6th.
Yeah, I can't do the 6th of February, but I can do any other February.
Okay, so you can do any other February Saturday, so that's the 13th, the 20th, or the 27th.
Yes.
Yep, so far.
You can do those days.
I can't do the 13th. So.
Okay, so the 13th is out, so 2027.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So the 27th.
School break. So now we're down to the 27th. So you can do the 27th, you can do the 27th. Can everybody else do the 27th?
You like what?
I don't know that tonight.
Chris and I-
You don't know that tonight.
February, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
I think March is better than February.
Because the kids come back.
So have you decided, based on this conversation, that we're not gonna do the original date?
No, I haven't
Oh,
decided.
okay.
I'm trying to get a feel.
Right, okay.
If the situation is just as bad,
Bad on the
3
27th.
weeks later, why don't we just leave it where it is? If we're so far, it just misses the purpose of the retreat. So that's why I'm trying to see if I can get a commitment for full participation. Does that date work for you guys?
The 20
27th?
Yes.
In Arizona at a conference, but
I will be here. And I can answer
Dr. Campbell?
questions that Dr. Gould may.
Good for you.
Mr.
Costello, good for you?
He's gonna step up to the plate.
All right.
Give Dr. Gould stuff to do when she gets
I
back.
don't know of a conflict. I have to check the family, schedule. But I don't know of a conflict right now, and I could text you tomorrow,
That'd be fine.
tomorrow, first thing, or
Be
tonight when
fine.
I get home.
That'll be fine. And then I'll send out a logistics email saying that whether it's good or not.
Is Morgan available on that?
I can't make
You didn't say yet.
I'm in the same boat you are. I need to check. Right now, I think it's okay.
Okay. So
Okay, so
we have a tentative.
we'll have a tentative for the 27th. I'll hear back if that works. If not, we'll just leave it for the 6th, but we'll definitely know tomorrow. You guys will email me or whatever, or text me or call me.
I get that.
I'm home tomorrow, so however you want to communicate with me, I'll be there. Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
I don't know that would happen tonight, but it did, so I guess it's a good thing.
That's good, that's a good thing. That's why we put it in the policy. I don't want to
doesn't seem to
say
be
that
working,
setting
though.
dates in the policy
Sorry.
is a good idea,
I know.
because
Sorry.
I certainly don't want to go back to that school council meeting. I'm just saying that having a firm date is,
Sorry.
All right.
Outside of my control.
okay. So now, Dr. Gould, retirements.
All right. We have only one to announce this evening, a name that you all know very well. Linda Coffey, our mathematics coordinator from central office, after 5 years of service to the district, will retire February 9th.
Ms. Badger.
On behalf of the Plymouth School Committee, I'd like to thank Linda for her 5 years of service to the district and wish her a happy retirement.
Very good. And then Ms. Hunt, we have correspondence tonight, I believe.
Yes, tonight we have 4 letters of correspondence. The first one is a letter, I'm just gonna pull it up, just to summarize it here. The first one is a letter to Mr. Scott from the Elks Lodge, number 1476, from, ELA coordinator, Mrs. Dr. White. And it's thanking them for, all the members of the Elks Lodge for their generous donation of dictionaries for all the 3rd grade students through the Dictionary Project. And the other 3 are all thank you letters from Principal Adam Blaisdell at South Elementary School. The first one is a letter to Darlene Viella from Tiny T's Seal Coating, thanking her for the donation of line striping. The second one is a letter to Egan's Landscape, thank you for a donation. And then the third one is a letter to the Plymouth Lions Club. And that one is thanking them for, I'm just pulling it up, sorry, my computer's slow, for a $500 donation for food to go home to families in need.
Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Begley, can I
Yes.
I just can't let this letter go without saying something. You got a letter from Tiny T's, and I was walking out of a store about a year ago, and Ms. Viella stopped me. And, I get stopped all the time because I'm always thinking it's a, concern or something. So she brought up the situation that when their family had I think they had a fire, and the school just rallied around the family and helped out with community service, donations and so on. The family wanted to give something back to the school, and since they own this company, she said, I'd like to work with the school to do something, and they striped the parking lot as a sign of appreciation. So there's a lot more to the letter than just a donation. This is a donation, and it's a true sign of thank you. It's a thank you to South Elementary.
Very good. Thank you for that background. Okay, Now we have our first program update. We're going to do the food services. And Dr. Maestas, want to set that up?
Yes. Tonight, we have our food service director. He's here with Patty Callahan, and Patrick Van Cott has been with us for quite a few years. How many years now, Patrick?
I think 14.
14 years. So he's here to give an update regarding our food service program, and I have to let Patrick and Patty know that it's by popular demand because you weren't here for the budget deliberations and the committee missed you, so they wanted you to come back. So there you go.
Actually, I was going to move you up, and then I found out you weren't here.
You know I like to go last anyway. So. Well, thank you very much for having us this evening. Sorry we were missed last time. All right, so we'll start with a summation of what we do. We currently have 13 schools. We feed 7,236 plus students breakfast and lunch. Our free and reduced lunch percentage right now is at 35.26. And back 14 years ago, I believe that's how long I've been here, it was at 16%, to let you know how the economy has improved or not improved over the years. We serve a total of 630,000 lunches and 170,000 breakfasts per year. Currently, right now, to let you know, too, Hedge and Cold Spring are both over 50% free and reduced on the population. We have 68 total employees, 1 secretary bookkeeper, 2 van drivers, 4 managers, 8 team leaders, and 51 cafeteria workers, and myself and Patty. And I just have to say thank you to all of our workers. It's the time of day where the student is happy and happy to be there. Not that they're not happy learning, but it's a time that they get to release their mind, and it's amazing to see the talking that they have, the communication with the kids. It's amazing. They're like their mom away from home type of deal half the time. It's really neat to watch them. Additional food service programs. We not only do the 2 meal periods, we also do summer food service, serving lunch to 4 sites, a total of 13,000 meals throughout the summer. Camp Clark, Boys and Girls Club, PCIS, and Hedge, and we're always looking for new areas to serve as well. We also are full-time now at the Council on Aging. We do the congregate meal there, and that's 5 days a week, year-round. And we also do the intergenerational program as well, having the kids come over and do various activities with the elderly. We also serve the alternative learning program, approximately 40 meals every day. We do all the functions and concessions at Memorial Hall, and that's why I said we do 13 schools, because we now do Mount Pleasant preschool 4 days a week. So we continue to branch out. Our lunch choices. We typically, on the elementary school level, we serve the hot meal that you see in the newspaper, assorted sandwiches and soups. Secondary levels, it expands to the bistro, where we do salads, sandwiches, pre-made grab and go because of the limited time to eat. The World's Fair, which is the hot meal that you see in the newspaper. And we also do the grill, which are burgers, chicken sandwiches, hot dogs, pizza, etc., on a daily basis. Now the doom and gloom part. Unfunded mandate seems to be the recurring nightmare for us, and it's finally did reach us in the last few years with the nutritional bill. And what happens is you get a lot of flurry of news reports until they all agree that something has happened financially, and they finally have, and they printed it. More than 1.5 million fewer students are choosing to eat lunch daily nationwide. Nationwide, only 18% of the school districts will break even. 12,000 districts nationwide will believe they will operate in a deficit. The USDA, this was the big part, estimated that schools must absorb $1.2 billion in added costs as a result of the new rules. The other blurb underneath is they gave us 6 cents to provide the students with healthier meals. And that's obviously not enough money, since milk went up 7.5 cents. So, that being said, it's quite a feat. And then the effects hit us on breakfast, and that hit hard. They decided that they came up with an average of they're underfunded by about 27 cents per breakfast. So that's the doom and gloom part. So here's what we look like now. The enrollment in the district-wide is decreasing from fiscal year 12, 8,160 to fiscal year 16, 7,745. You ask why I care about that? It's because it has a direct relation to the participation trends. If that's going down, our participation is going to go down as well. Fiscal year 12 we were doing 4,144 meals per day, and we're currently doing 3,492. Now, I reported last year, that we were trying to figure out when it was going to bottom out. And if you look at the last two numbers, fiscal year 15 and 16, it may be the dip that we were looking at. So hopefully that's the bottom, the flat line that we're staring at. A la carte sales, the exact same thing. We don't make up, obviously, the fiscal year 12, we had $187,000 in a la carte sales, and now I estimate we're going to have about 70,000, which was the same as last year.
So proportionally, the participation trends are ahead of the population drops. So it's clearly a result of the change in the policy.
Exactly.
It may be exasperated by the drop in the head count, but it's
Right.
because it's quite a bit different.
And when did the regulations change? Because I think 13, isn't 13 the first year that we started our a la carte, even limits on the a la carte
Yes,
offerings?
exactly.
And that's a la carte is, I mean, kids go to the a la carte line, right?
Absolutely. How to spend $2.75 perfectly.
Did you want to ask?
Do you see a difference at like the elementary school level versus the middle and high school, like in the percent participation, where they don't know any different technically?
That's, right now what's happening is the trend will be that they will be used to it.
Yeah.
Eventually. So some of the schools are doing much better. You can see a big switch over, and the big changeover has been in breakfast. I wish I had a perfect answer for you why, but I think it's perceived value. It's still cheap. It's $1.50. I mean, you can't get anything for $1.50 at this point. And I think that the value is there. So even on the secondary level, it's okay. But for the younger kids, the breakfast participation has gone through the roof. It's done very, very well. But I see that trend. I really truly believe it, that it'll all come up and move along with them, and that'll be the norm.
Yeah.
So for the kids right now, it's still shocking for them. They still love to talk about it. So. Expenses, these are the big ticket items. There's three majors. Food is at $1 million. It's decreased slightly only because of the participation. The healthy ingredients do cost more, but when you're serving that many thousand less meals per day, it coincides right with it. Labor is one that is on the increase, 1.13 million, and that will continue to go up with the cost of living increases. One of our largest ones are the fixed cost health insurance. Our fiscal year 16 is going to be $358,800. We are one of the only districts that still pick up the health insurance. And it was when we were making money hand over fist, basically. You could buy brand new equipment rather than spend the time fixing it, and you could pay for big ticket items like this, and it really didn't affect. It was you had to spend money to keep it as a nonprofit, basically. But now it's really hitting us. And a figure that I was staring at and was shocked by is you need to sell 130,472 meals at $2.75 before you even hit the door in August or September. It's a lot of meals to cover the health insurance alone. And just when you think it's going to get better, fiscal year 17's estimate is $385,000, and then fiscal year 18 is $412,000. I feel like I'm drowning as I'm speaking. A lot of the different school districts will pay a portion to contribute to, they'll call it electrical costs or building costs, something along that lines. But this is by far one of the largest amounts that are donated. Also, we did a look at our current population, and of our 26 employees, full-time employees, I believe 22 take it. So if all 26 were to take it, it would be $469,607.84. So, but we have a lot of ideas here. Some of the other expenses totaling about $150,000 that we're responsible for too. And this is pretty much a norm of other school districts around too. Fuel, meals tax, uniforms, vehicle repairs, software for POS, licensing renewals, equipment repairs, equipment replacement, office supplies, and printing cost. Plan of action. Our partnerships with Beth Israel Deaconess, Marsha Richards always offers up and does come over and do a lot of trainings for us, and that's fantastic to continue with that relationship. The Fuel Up and Play, we got an email today.
But we're working on it.
Good,
I'm gonna
good.
fight. I'm gonna fight. We didn't get it.
Excellent, excellent. Ms. Hunton's been helping, running the show with that, so.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult. You fill out a lot of the grants and the hoops that they make you jump through. It's nothing short of insane. The Veggie Fruit of the Month, it's a partnership with the USDA. They provide us with posters and cards, stickers, and everything to show that the vegetables really do come out of the ground and things like that. And then we're going to build a nutritional database for a large various of reasons with the carbs, calories, fat, sodium. There's such a large population of diabetics in our school system, and it's good to know carb counts and just the grams of sugar, et cetera, that are in our food and that we're serving. And it's going to be an enormous undertaking, but it's something that's necessary for us to do, to step up. And our committee to strategize with Mr. Bagley and Mr. Costin, and we had about 4 or 5 other team leaders, managers meet with us as well. We came up with a bunch of different ideas to strategize to move us forward. Food sampling, menu goals, marketing strategies, surveys, training, culture, and teamwork. And we plan on having a training in January where we'll have knife skills, and it'll hit upon all the different areas of training that is now mandatory, believe it or not. Not only are the regulations training, but the regulations for us to even serve food to students are changing and well, and it's all for the good too. It's all obtain knowledge and passing it on to all our workers, which is great. That's it. Voila. Questions?
Any questions? Yes, Ms. Hunt.
I actually have 2 questions. The first one, I think that I might have mentioned it before, I'm not quite sure. Is there any way we could do some kind of a grab and go for the high school, for after school? Whether it's a vending machine with some of the signature sandwiches or fruit, or a lot of these kids that stay after for clubs or sports don't get home sometimes till 6, 7 o'clock at night. And if they're the kind of kid that isn't eating a lot during the day, I know that like a smoothie machine was kind of thrown out at one point, or just some way that we can have something that they could go and purchase. It might help, with finances too, but
Sure.
just something for them to have to put in their stomach until they get home at night.
We tried on a limited basis. Actually, we signed a contract with KBL, which is a healthy vending company, and it did so poorly they asked to break our contract with us.
No.
They were like, stuff is going bad, and
Yeah.
but now, trust me, it wasn't like a large hoagie sandwich or something along that lines. It was chips and healthier snacks and things
Yeah.
like that. So it would have to be, they do have vending machines with a lot of the stuff, but a lot of it gets a stigma too, of how long's that been in there, and
Yeah.
things like that. So, you know, it could be fresh daily, and kids would still look at it and say, like, when did that get there?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's a market for that, because I do know some kids might walk to Mary Lou's, or they might walk down to the corner
To the market
store
and
to get
everything, right.
something. But just to.
We're still not, we haven't given up on that idea,
Yeah.
you know, by any stretch, and it kind of coincides with a phone call that I got. Once Gary makes a phone call to me, then our minds start going crazy. But, and this could actually work, and it was to do with feeding the construction workers.
Oh,
So I immediately went on, and it's something I've always dreamed of owning, is a food truck.
food truck.
So they all think I know, they get me all crazy about that. But honestly, it's a great idea from that standpoint. And then and then you say, okay, after the school's built, what do you do with it?
You go back and forth.
Then you have on specific days, you can go over to South High and then go back over to North High.
Come to Central.
Go to
There you
Central.
go. Little-
South has a food van, right? That they built the technical.
They have a
functional-
trailer
The trailer, yeah.
that they use for the
sports
games,
and stuff.
sporting events, yeah.
But if it's not being used,
The food trucks are all self-contained.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to get the health inspector has to come and check it all out, the whole bit. And
Refrigeration and a grill and
it would help.
right into it.
This is why I got so excited about it, is that it would be great for the catering aspect of things, and it would provide an additional income. And when you start small thinking, and you can go as large as you want, these things run between like $50,000 for a used one, and they go up over $100,000. They're like state-of-the-art things. But in small estimates, you could pay for it in a year's time.
I wonder if we could get a sponsor for it.
That's right.
So there's a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done with it and solve a lot of problems and make some money as well.
yep,
I
go
just
right
have
ahead.
one part to another question. Do you feel, I've heard, some feedback that I've heard from some students on the high school level is that they're not buying lunch now because of time, and that they're more apt to go to the school store to buy a snack. Has anybody ever looked into, I mean, are the kids, do you think that that's true? The kids are not buying lunch because of the amount of time it takes them to get their food, sit down and eat?
I've gone up to tables and asked them that question. They just go like, look at the line.
Yeah,
I said,
It's hard
why?
to get through the line.
right.
And if you're, for instance, in North High at the other end of the school, and to try to get to the lunchroom, we lost a lot of teacher sales because they stay up there in
Right.
that particular area where we once used to serve a lot of teachers.
Maybe that's something we
but-
need to brainstorm.
Maybe we can drive the food truck to that
There you
corner
go.
of the building. I'm stuck on food truck.
Thank you.
Dr. Maestas, I think you wanted to say something before?
Well, you know, when Patrick and Patty are talking about revenue, I think, you know, I go to a construction meeting every Wednesday, and I think one of the dilemmas that the contractors have is in South Plymouth, you can't get something to eat.
there either, no.
So, and when you talk about culinary, you know, you need to place an order, and you got to pay for it, and it's, you know, the kids have a short window to prepare it. So one of the thoughts, and we've shared with Patrick and Patty, is, you know, food service can actually make some money by having lunches available. So they're going to figure out. I know Patrick's working on it of a way to maybe take pre-orders and get food down to the construction workers, because right now we have 60 workers on site, and it's going to ramp up to well over 100 every day, and you know, so there's a potential revenue stream there that over the next 3 years. So maybe that's, I know, I kind of, when I heard about the truck, I said that's just not going to happen. But you know, they're
Maybe we asked
I haven't
the
given up.
construction company.
Yeah, but
since
maybe
we're
we'd
kinda
get a
doing their
donated
employees-
food service truck. You know?
Yeah, maybe they would like to kick in.
That's right. Agostini.
You know, and we can start,
Agostini and bacon.
the thought process too is you can start, you know, over at South High and do pre-made sandwiches and get an order sheet of some sort going.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be the baby steps before we work up to the food truck.
Well, realistically, the only way the food truck will ever happen is if it's donated.
Right.
Or either the funds are donated or the actual truck's donated, one or the other.
Right.
And maybe the vocational, like the van, the trailer they have was a donated trailer. I
Yes,
believe
it
that
was.
the
Right.
vocational, Jim Hanna and his team fixed up over, I think at least 1 year, right?
Yep.
So it was
I've
part of the
seen that, yeah.
curriculum and also had a good,
Right, right.
usable outcome. Ms. Badger.
So this is just like a reach, but what about the Plymouth Education Foundation? I mean, you could use it as it's an educational tool. You could use some of the culinary kids in the food truck. No, too big for their budget. I'm just saying, you could make money for the kids after school, sell them sandwiches,
You
sell
know what?
sandwiches.
It's the
Just
creative thinking.
throwing
is
it out
great.
there, it never hurts.
Yeah, could the kids pre-order too? The after-school, the high school kids pre-order sandwiches if they feel like, I mean, is that too much to?
We do, for instance, we do the alternative learning program. So we make the sandwiches ahead of time and have them all on a cart, for Josh to wheel out for nighttime. So
Yeah, that's right.
anything is possible.
Won't happen. Domino.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Thank you for the update.
I know.
Very welcome.
Very good.
I think we're on the next agenda as well.
Yes.
Next item.
Right, so the next one, we're doing the policy out of order because it pertains to the school allergens and food services. And did you want to come back and join us, or?
I'll start that one. You want to do it?
Oh, you can start, I'll chime in.
As you recall, last spring, we had a parent come before the school committee, and she expressed a really genuine concern that inadvertently her son or daughter nearly got exposed to a peanut product at one of the elementary schools. And she felt that we really better take a really close look at that because, as Nurse Powers will tell us, that peanut allergies are fatal. There are lots of other allergies, strawberries, tomato sauce, blah, 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 but peanuts can be pretty fatal. So that's why the committee bumped that back to the policy committee. And we looked at it and talked about it, and we really felt that there really was no policy here. So the policy committee is bumping it back to administration and school committee because it looks more to us as a need for an administrative directive regarding peanuts products. Now, 50%, Nurse Powers provided us with information back in June of 2015. 50% of the school districts in the area here, running up and down the coast and going west a little bit, have zero. They don't provide any peanut products at all to elementary school, and a little bit smaller percentage don't provide any peanut products to secondary level. The policy committee felt that we needed a directive to not offer peanut products at the elementary level, and perhaps at the secondary level. We weren't clear. Where were we on secondary level?
I think we had discussed not eliminating it at the secondary level, knowing that the students are a little bit older, more cognitive of the issues involving peanut allergies. So I think we were focusing on the elementary level.
So we bumped it back. It's not a policy to us. It looks like an administrative action. That's why it's here tonight.
But we have our classroom food policy exists because of our concern about allergies in the classroom and not being able to be a controlled environment. Would we supplement to that, or you guys didn't look at it that way?
We were talking here about distribution of peanut products by our
Correct.
lunch program. A little different than the classroom policy.
Correct. Both pertaining to allergies, and the reason why the other policy exists is because of our concern for allergies in an uncontrolled environment. And when we were saying it's in the lunchroom, we have isolated tables and other procedures that we follow, but when it's in the classroom, it could be it could vary greatly depending on the awareness of the staff in each individual classroom. So, Mr. Morgan.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to the conversation that we're not proposing banning peanut or peanut butter entirely at the elementary school level. We're discussing not serving it as part of the lunch program, but we still would have peanut-free tables. And if a parent wants to send their child to school with a peanut product, they can. We're not banning it from the school. We're not recommending banning it from the school.
We're just improving odds
We're
by
improving the
reducing the
odds.
risk, since we're not contributing to the risk. But we're not saying that someone couldn't bring it to the school.
Right. That's exactly.
Okay. So I'd like to hear where the experts are on that one.
So at this point, I definitely support eliminating the sale of peanut butter from our elementary schools. And, initially when we started to discuss this, I was of the stand that part of our job as educators and as health educators is to teach our children with life-threatening allergies how to live safely in a world that has allergens. However, at the elementary level, those students are developmentally younger and, unable to make that level of choice, perhaps. So I think that the margin of error is much greater at the elementary level. And I think with the even now limited introduction of full-day kindergarten and with the potential of full-day kindergarten throughout the district, we're now adding another level of yet younger children who have the potential to be exposed to an allergen, such as peanut butter. This year, our statistics, we have about 190 students that report peanut allergies, and over half of those are at the elementary level, and about 15 of those half are in kindergarten. So we have a significant number of children at the elementary level who do have peanut allergies. And it really does seem to be the trend for districts to not sell it at the elementary level. But all the districts I spoke to do sell it at the middle and high school level. And again, I think developmentally they're able to participate more in that choice without as high a risk of being accidentally exposed. But I think in terms of our policy, I don't know that it needs to be a policy other than it's not something we will sell at the elementary level if we choose to do that. And we absolutely would continue to do all of our peanut-free tables, have the monitors check lunches at the peanut-free tables, et cetera, that we do to keep our children with allergies safe.
I personally like it as a policy because I think over time, people tend to maybe forget, or it could start to work its way back in. So if we were going to commit to it, I would personally like to see it as a policy. So it's always there. We're always reminded of it. We always review the policies. It's something that doesn't get lost in the shuffle.
Two things. I think it's a really good point, because I brought this up at our policy subcommittee meeting. If this were an administrative directive, where is it written down?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get an answer from administration as to where it's written down when we make it an administrative directive. So that question is still up in the air. But I want to say, Ms. Nurse Powers,
And
that...
administrations change.
I'm sorry?
And administrations change over
Right.
time. We're talking, a policy has a longer life, right? So in other words, it's written down somewhere as an administrative policy, but then as administrators change, they may not agree with it, and they just change it to what.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you.
Whereas a policy is a little more lasting.
Well, the policy is simple to write. We could write it right here now, if we wanted to, and vote it as no peanut products will be served, no, strike that, will be distributed by food services at elementary level. Now, there are 6 districts who don't serve it at the high school. Attleboro, Barnstable, Brockton, Chatham, Fairhaven, and Nauset don't serve products at the high school level either. So I don't know whether we want to go that far. But we could write that policy right now, as I just said it.
I would
Now,
just like
I
to.
know you're cringing, because I know after what you just told us.
No, I agree not to arm wrestle anyone.
No, I know that after what you just told us in the presentation, things are kind of dire and not trending where we would like them to be trending. And if you give me, I'm sure you can give me a number of how many peanut butter and jelly sandwiches we sell. Or I remember you telling me it's the Fluffernutter that's the biggest seller of everything, which it
We don't
blows
even know
my
what that's
mind
made
because I
of.
thought it was the unhealthiest thing that a kid could have. But I think you told me those numbers once before. So what we would be saying is we'd be cutting that off. So, but I
We
think
sell
I
about
think we have to.
40,000 peanut butter-based sandwiches a year, but that's total district-wide. About half is elementary.
So
And we
20
get, and this is the one kicker, though. What we ignore, we're not taking part of, and it's a long, complicated process, is the government commodities. It's like, what kind of food do we get? And we sustain our program based on government commodities.
Right.
I mean, and we get 225 cases of peanut butter a year. I would obviously have to reallocate and think of distribution dollars off into a different area for that. But I can't stop the process of that peanut butter coming into this system until June. But peanut butter lasts a long time.
Do they allow you to replace the peanut butter, substitute with something else?
I would have to call them and see if they could do that. And I'm sure, I mean.
Because we can't be the only district. We just rattled off the names of numerous districts.
If there's that many districts, they've probably done the same thing at this point, or are doing the same thing as well. So there may not be that many takers, in other words.
So I know I'd probably get myself in trouble, but, right. So I know that there's two issues here for me. The health, I think, takes priority over any financial
And that I
concerns.
agree with.
And I know that's difficult to
100%.
say
No, that-
when the program is
When you
last 3
break
years
it
in
down, it's
meltdown. Yeah.
a child.
Just one more thing
I
we'll
get
have to
it.
figure out how
I
to
do.
fund. Everybody in the
You
same
said what we
place?
all were thinking.
Okay.
You said it.
I just have a quick question. I know in the past we've asked, what happens if a child comes to school and they don't have a sandwich or they don't have something to eat? And you've told us that you give them peanut butter and jelly or you give them peanut butter and fluff or whatever they like. What would you be giving them? Or I assume if this child with peanut allergy comes in, you're not going to hand them a sandwich.
Right.
What do you feed them?
Probably like a cheese sandwich or something like that.
Okay.
Because cheese is also another
Subsidy,
large government
yeah.
commodity, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Okay.
Chunks.
Which is running pretty dry, actually.
Is it?
There's a lot of crazy trends happening right now, but.
But that is a likely substitute that,
Yeah.
Okay.
that would be the
Yes,
substitute.
yes.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Suppose we pass this policy tonight, what are you gonna do with that peanut butter? You have a lot of peanut butter sitting there.
Well, we probably,
His face.
I would think wisely.
I was thinking
we
of a
would
giant
phase it in.
sculpture.
I think wisely we should phase it in, right?
To next.
It would just be distributed to the secondary levels.
Or, yeah.
And then I would just order less and less and less of it as the year went on.
The problem is we're saying peanut products. So the largest one is obviously peanut butter.
We don't have any other product.
We don't have any like
Yeah,
peanut
they've
oil or
completely
anything.
eliminated,
Oh, good.
completely gone.
Perfect,
So that's been phased over the period of time, so if it has the word
perfect.
peanut butter, and then everyone knows that that's been the
Perfect.
limit.
That's
so
good. Good.
That hurdle's already been.
Are there allergies that, does every elementary school have students that are allergic?
Well, the number was pretty high.
Yeah, every
Yes.
school has it?
Every school.
So it would be like 1 year there'd be none?
No.
We're not that lucky.
I just.
Ms.
throw it
Badger.
out there.
And when we say preschool, we also mean like the the Mount Pleasant.
So this year, we have 7 students at Mount Pleasant who have peanut allergies.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
If,
Clarify it.
we had a total of 189 students with peanut allergies, K through 12, in June of 2015. So they're probably still with us.
Dr. Myers.
If the school committee were to recommend and move forward with no peanut butter without a policy, Mr. Van Cott and his department will stop carrying peanut butter at the elementary level. So it would just cease in that aspect. If you want to make it formal and have a policy to say that, he won't carry it anymore. They just will not send it through the distribution channel to the elementary. I mean, it'll just stop.
Yeah.
There is no other way to get peanut butter in unless we deliver it. So it's,
I don't see a downside to not making it a policy, because as you're saying, if either way,
yes.
it has the same result,
Yeah.
then I don't see a
It's a statement.
downside
Yeah.
to the policy. I think it just makes it tighter. I think it makes it easier for you to administer it, I mean, because you have something to stand
yeah.
on and say. So I'm looking for, is there a motion or?
What's not clear to me at this moment is if we were to write the policy right now, and I think we can, and vote it, and it becomes policy effective tonight,
All elementaries.
then beginning tomorrow, there's no peanut butter products distributed in any of our elementary schools. Is that actually feasible at this point?
Yes,
It is.
yes.
Seems really fast.
I think if we make it effective immediately without at least a 1 week or 2 week phase in, you gotta give parents time to know that their children can't purchase.
Yeah.
A lot of kids, that's all they eat is peanut butter and
Yeah.
jelly.
Right, so I
you need to
think-
give them a chance to know that.
Get it,
Well, they
yeah.
can send it in,
They
though.
need at least a week or
Yeah,
two.
they
I
can
mean,
send it in, but
pick the
it's the
time
same
frame
like
that we
that.
It's a
think
lot
is
of the free and
reasonable.
reduced
Buy it.
children that eat
A
it.
lot of them eat
So
peanut butter and
before
jelly.
we should say it's 1 to 2 weeks, and then before we stop it, we better have that substitute ready.
Enough cheese.
Because if it's the free and reduced, right, that's gonna be their meal. And they're counting on that. So I don't wanna just yank it away, the law of unintended consequences. Don't wanna do the right thing and then inadvertently hurt somebody else. So I think it needs to have a phase-in so that you have a period of public awareness. I'm sure Rich will get the word out. That'll help a lot.
He's
Whole
tweeting
town
right
knows
now.
already, just to let you know.
I'm wondering if you folks have
February?
a recommendation how we should handle this from here. You have a recommendation? Do you guys have a recommendation?
Well, my first recommendation is we ask the contractors if they like peanut butter, because maybe we can get
Making a lot of sense.
can make a lot of sense.
Fluffernutters.
I would look at putting together a document, letter to parents indicating that a new policy has been adopted, effective maybe 2 weeks out.
Right.
That would give them time to make accommodations for their children who, 2 weeks after, let's say after the holidays, we give them 2 weeks.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay.
January.
Yeah, middle of January. And it goes out to everyone on the same day. Let's say it goes out on a Friday, that following Monday, we begin to, okay? So we
make
Stop that.
sure it'll be in the papers, we'll put it on the website, we'll use all these social media that we have and everything
Yep.
and get it out there so that there are no surprises. And then we have a contact list, I'm sure, of the families that qualify for free and reduced lunch, just to make sure that they're getting that information.
One of the things that we may want to include is, alternatives that they might want to consider instead of peanut butter.
Right.
That we would send out and saying, hey, you can try a variety of other things that we do have.
Right.
So
Let them
they
know
can-
what the default will
That
be.
is a point of order, that we don't just strictly give the free and reduced kids peanut butter. That's their
Right, right.
choice
That's
to
their
take that.
choice.
I just want to make that clear.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just
No,
give you credit for that, Pat.
And,
It just happens to be a very popular choice, so I
Exactly.
just want to make sure.
Right.
no, and I know there are probably in the single digits, it's a low number, but there are definitely children at the elementary level who are both allergic to peanuts and dairy, including cheese. No, there are.
Yes.
I know,
We would need
we'll
to
have-
have
So, and to that
choice
point,
to that, yeah.
Ms. Powers,
the difference is the reaction won't be the same.
It's not
Right, so in other words, a peanut reaction is a severe and sudden reaction, whereas the dairy,
January.
as
Give me
is
a Monday,
gluten
January
or
18th.
other allergens and
We always
intolerances.
we always have a variety of choices. We're not going to make a child say,
Just say that's all
I don't care if you're
in-house.
allergic to dairy, you're going to eat this piece of cheese.
We
So-
can advertise that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Soup, right?
they will always have something to eat.
That policy.
I would like that, if I could.
So I would like to move of the following motion.
It's a whole
Effective
nother
January 18th, 2016, Plymouth Public Schools will no longer permit the distribution of peanut butter at any of our elementary schools, K through 5.
Pre-K.
Okay.
Pre-K through
Pre-K.
5, excuse me.
Peanut butter will be at that school.
Elementaries, pre-K through
Oh,
5.
yeah, what do you,
What grade is that?
Pre-K
That's a good
through
Elementary
five.
buildings.
Elementary buildings.
Elementary
Yeah, we have the
buildings,
split
those will
fifth
stay.
grade. and-
Good
But we'd have to be
buildings.
specific to elementary buildings.
Well, because, go ahead, tell me.
I mean, we could be specific in the motion to elementary buildings.
Right, because
That's
fifth
okay.
grade at South.
Okay,
We got that
all right.
problem. at
Preschool and elementary buildings.
Okay, so the motion will read, effective January 18th, 2016, Plymouth Public Schools no longer permit the distribution of peanut butter at any of our elementary school buildings.
Yeah.
Period. That's the motion.
Pre-K and elementary, right?
Pre-K and elementary school
Yeah.
buildings.
I second that motion.
They'll be, yeah,
Any further discussion?
fifth grade, so at that point.
All those in favor? Thank you.
So, Ms. Dargy, you have the
I feel like we
motion and the vote? Thank you.
accomplished something on that
Mhm.
one.
Send a letter to that parent.
There you go.
Yeah, we
Policy's
should.
written.
That's great.
We're gonna write
Should
that,
let
as
her know.
is that a policy? We'll put that in the policy.
She will know.
policy number
Right,
associated
okay.
with it.
No, put in policy.
You should. Kim?
I'm sorry?
Kim?
I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I said you should send just a letter to that parent, to the parent, just so
They said that, he said he would.
yeah.
Perfect.
With options too. Didn't you?
Not to all the parents, just to the parents that recommended it, just saying thank you for the recommendation, this is the motion.
Oh,
this is
those
the
parents.
That's
I have that
something I personally, I've wanted to get to this night for quite a while, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, there's a couple of things we'll do. We'll work with Patrick and Patty to come up with a letter that go to all elementary, pre-K through 5 buildings, identifying the new policy. In addition, a list of alternatives that are available for students will be sent out as well, so they will have an opportunity to see what is available.
Perfect.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy
Thank
holidays
you.
to everyone.
You too.
Thank you.
Now we have the Communities That Care survey. Dr. Campbell, are you gonna?
Now, at this point, I'm not sure where I can control, can I control it?
Yes, I'll get it for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Massis. Tonight, we have the, I think this is on. Yes, okay, thank you. Tonight, we have the long-awaited Communities That Care Survey, CTC survey. This was administered last spring, as you know, and we had some, what I would consider a significant delay in receiving the results, but I think it was worth the wait in terms of the amount of information that we've received. I think it's important for the public and for the committee to know that while the results here may be concerning in many areas, we're certainly not alone in this, as we all know that this is an epidemic in terms of, I think, alcohol and drug use in our community. Our survey results here are actually much more favorable than they were the last time we administered that survey, and I'll get into that in a minute. But I think the difference between Plymouth and a lot of communities is how transparent we are with our data and our information. We've always had our CTC surveys made public in its entirety on our website, and we will do that eventually. Bring it to the board first to share it with you. But we're very transparent with our information, which isn't the case in all communities. But I can tell you, being a part of a number of boards, that this is an issue for all of our neighboring districts and communities. So just start with that. As you know, again, we did the CTC administration to grades 7 through 12 back in the spring of 2015. We actually had almost 2,600 students that participated in this survey. Students were given consent forms for their parents and were asked to sign a return prior to that if they did not want their students to participate in the survey. The same protocol that we had in the past. The survey was administered in the spring, as I said, computer-based through labs, and required approximately 1 class period to complete last year. Students were informed that they could skip any questions that they did not feel comfortable answering, and all the surveys were anonymous and confidential. Now, we get a lot of questions sometimes in terms of the validity of the survey. How do we know that it's valid and it's reliable? Well, the folks that are responsible for this survey development, this is a nationally normed survey. Over 280,000 students across the nation have taken this survey to get the norm referencing figured out. And they have validation process, and there's 4 essential steps that they take. The first one is to remove survey data for any student who didn't take it seriously. And they look at that by students that report an average of 4 or more daily uses of various drugs, and they're listed there on the screen for you. I'm not going to read them, but that's one indicator that the student's not taking it seriously, and they immediately eliminate those students. In another area, they're looking at antisocial behaviors. It examines the frequency of 5 antisocial behaviors. So if they see respondents that report more than 120 instances within the past year of those behaviors, they remove them again from the analysis. Again, it's an indication that the student's not taking it too seriously. They also ask students if they were asked if they've used a fictitious drug in the past 30 days of their lifetime. So there's those false fictitious drugs that are inserted to the survey to see if students will respond to that in the affirmative. Again, those are eliminated. And there's also looking at what they call logical inconsistencies amongst the respondents. So for example, a student may report that he or she had used alcohol 3 or 5 times in the past 30 days, yet in another question they said that they have never used alcohol in their lifetime. So these are 4 methods that the test administrators use in order to validate the survey. And it seems to have been pretty accurate. So the survey is really, and the survey results, I should say, are broken up into 2 major components, what we call protective factors and risk factors. Protective factors are simply that. They're the assets or the conditions that buffer children and youth from exposure to risk. Okay, and the research will show that strong bonding to family, strong bonding to school, communities and peers, all are protective factors that are going to reduce the likelihood of students participating in these types of behaviors. A lot of things that we do in our schools, obviously, small learning communities, our advisories, the establishment of a lot of community partnerships and organizations and events that we do, all lead to support those protective factors. These factors are, again, support healthy behaviors, and young people are more likely to follow the standards for behavior set by these groups if the bonds are strong. Now, risk factors are just that. They're conditions that increase the likelihood of a young person becoming involved in a drug use, delinquency, school dropout, and/or violence. So, for example, children living in families with poor parental monitoring are more likely to become involved in these problems. So this is just an example of the overall protective factors. So the chart you're looking at here, you can see the band down below, the average being right there at 50. Or 55, excuse me. The higher scores in this report by students are the areas that represent strengths from the Plymouth Public Schools can build upon. So for example, community opportunities for pro-social involvement, positive involvement within the community. Very high, average of 62. So when we look at this chart, we want to see those bar graphs high. Those are their highest, are our highest protective factors that we want to build upon. Those that are low are things that we need to have concern with. So our lowest protective factors, going back to that list, as reported by our students, were religiosity and community rewards for pro-social involvement. And our highest protective factors were community opportunities for pro-social involvement, belief in moral order, so the understanding of right and wrong, and social skills, which I have to point out was once formerly one of the lowest reported by students. So I think that some of this speaks to the opportunities we provided as a community, as a school community, that we're seeing these protective factors on the high side, but certainly points out some things that we need to work on. So the factors that are elevated, as I said, should be prioritized within the community, helps us to target preventative programming as we move forward. Now the risk factors, I'm not going to read all these, but I will highlight some of these in a moment, but you can see these in your reports in graph 2. There's a number of risk factors that are known to increase the likelihood of students engaging in problem behaviors. Here, as opposed to the protective factors, the lower scores reported by students here represent strengths. Okay, so it's the exact opposite of what I showed you before. Okay, so we don't want to see, when we see these bar graphs getting high, that's a concern because these risk factors are elevated. So to sort of highlight the highest risk factors as reported by our students, and again, this is the aggregate, this is all of our students, grades 7 to 12, this isn't school specific, this particular report that I'm giving you. Family conflicts, low perceived risk of drug use, so their perception of risk is low, and parental attitudes favorable towards antisocial behavior. The lowest risk factors were early initiation of drug use, laws and norms favored to handguns, and poor family management. So there's a substantial amount of research showing that adolescents' exposure to a greater number of risk factors is associated with more drug use and delinquency. It's more important in understanding these behaviors than ethnicity, income, and or family structure. So those characteristics are more important for us to understand than ethnicity, income, and family structure. The one thing that the CTC reports do, again, this report is very detailed, there's a lot of information in it, but it gives us grade level results as well, which allows us to focus the most appropriate points in youth development for preventative intervention, so we can see when do these behaviors become a major concern and try to address it before we get to that grade level. So if we see something starting in 7th grade, we want to address it in late elementary at the very least, prior to 7th grade, or if it's something that's in 12th grade, we may want to focus our energy at the high school. So this is just one example of a chart that you'll see within that report. And when we look at those grade level results, they sort of present to you a middle school and a high school view. The Plymouth Public Schools 7th graders' highest level of risk was regarding family conflict, poor academic performance. Again, this is student perceived, students self-reporting. Lack of commitment to school, and again, low perceived risk of drug use. In 12th graders, the highest level of risk was low perceived risk of drug use, laws and norms favorable to drug use, and I think that we can all, recall that when marijuana was decriminalized and students, the consequences aren't there, and I think the students realize that. And then parental attitudes favorable towards antisocial behavior, as reported by 12th graders. So the chart that you're looking at here is the overall prevalence of antisocial behavior. So this is the actual percentage of students that are admitting to these 3 antisocial behaviors: intent to harm, being drunk or high in school, and selling drugs. When we look at that grade level span that I showed you before, that chart that had all the grade level representation, the lowest in terms of intent to harm was in 8th grade, with 5% of our students reporting being involved in a situation where they intended to harm another individual, and it was the highest amongst 10th graders, almost 11%. Being drunk or high in school was lowest in 7th grade as reported. That's 0.8%, not 8, but 0.8, so less than 1% of students, and highest in 11th grade at 18.7%. And the actual selling of drugs, 7th graders, 0.3%, and 11th graders was the highest at 11%. Now, I thought it was important to show you this. So this, what I did here is I took those 4 antisocial behaviors and I graphed them out by grade level, so you can see how they rise over time. So you can certainly see that the use of alcohol and drugs is something that we see that climbs quite significantly in comparison to the others. So it's the most significant rise is once they hit high school. You see the alcohol and drugs, there's an increase there. I thought it was important to go back to the last CTC survey, that we did. We, as you all recall, Plymouth administered this survey from 2006 through 2010. So we had 5 years of data consecutively, and that was largely driven by the drug-free community grant. We stepped away from that since 2010, felt it was important to bring that back, and that's why we administered it last year. So what you're looking at here is a graph that is showing current substance use, past 30 days. When asking the students, have you participated in any of the following substances in the last 30 days? This is looking at students' responses to those questions. The yellow graph is the 2010 response from our students. The blue graph is the most recent 2015 response. And then the green is the national response. So looking at, again, those 280,000 students nationally in 2015. So you can see we're still, in terms of the way our students are responding, in terms of alcohol, binge drinking, and marijuana use, we're above that average. But it's also important, I think, to note that in those three areas, in comparison to where we were in 2010, it's gone down. So while we certainly have room for improvement as a community, we're certainly moving in the right direction. I'm happy to see that we're not, it's not the inverse of this. And again, I should have said that the preface that this is looking at 12th graders.
And it should be said, the criteria you put, that you showed us at the beginning of how you try to put some credibility to the numbers.
Yes.
It didn't exist back, or it didn't exist as extensively back when we used to get these numbers. So some of these might be, you're seeing a drop, and some of them might be that the numbers were, we didn't think
Elevated.
the numbers were real solid back then.
Yep.
We weren't weeding out as many of the ones where they
That's
thought they were
that's
just
very
checking
right.
off
That's
everything.
very likely without having that information in terms of the validation back then, for sure. I'm having issues with the clicker now. Oh, here we go. I thought it was important to show you this. This is looking at the percentage of students, youth who reported perception of great risk of harm. Again, remember I told you that was a risk factor that was of concern. The students are not perceiving the risk of harm when it comes to substances. The purple or darker shaded bar is the 2006 survey response. So this is looking at students when we first administered the CTC survey. So this is asking students, do they perceive the risk of harm by using substances? When asked if they perceive the risk of harm with regular drinking, binge drinking, 36.3% responded in the affirmative in 2006. In 2015, that number rose to 44.1. So you see there's an increased perception of risk, which is good. We want them to perceive that risk. Smoking marijuana regularly has declined from 52% perceived risk of harm in 2006 to 41.2% in the most recent survey.
Battery might be.
Is it? Oh. Now it's working. Thank you. Okay. This chart is showing the percentage of surveyed youth who reported engaging in antisocial behavior. Again, intent to harm, being drunk or high in school, and selling drugs, those three that I showed you before. The first bar, the darker bar, is the 2006 results, and the light blue bar is the 2015 results. So as you can see, again, we're moving in the right direction, seeing a decline. Intent to harm alone has dropped more than, it's cut more than half. Substance use in school cut more than half in terms of the students' response. That's a significant decline, as well as the selling of these illegal substances declined again more than half. So, very positive. We'd like to see these numbers, much lower, of course, but we're happy to say that it's moving in the right direction. I thought this was important, not because it's a significant data in terms of the results, but I think that this is something that we lose sight of sometimes, and that is transition and mobility of students. there's a lot of research that will say that students who transition often, the more often that students transition, the less likely they are to feel that sense of connectedness to their community, their school, their neighborhood. And these are all risk factors that can affect students, in terms of their sort of behavioral thinking and their skills that they, or the decisions they make. So I think I don't point this out to say that this is of significant concern, because it's actually lower than the normative average in terms of our mobility. But I think it's something that we need to be mindful in all of our schools as students transition. And sometimes, and we've heard that in some of our school improvement plans, students coming in, coming out. It's important that we really try to make a concerted effort to connect to those students, I think, even more, so that they have a sense of connectedness. Because we have some students that will be with us from preschool through high school, that's not always the case. Okay. So again, tonight I only present some of the data for you. There are 4 reports this year, 5 reports, excuse me, 1 for the district and 1 for each of the individual schools. The only thing I'll say about the individual schools is when you compare the middle schools and compare the high schools, you're going to see very consistent results. I think you'll see that when you look at the reports. But I just want to point out some of the things as we do preventative work. What seems to work in prevention, I think, is first and foremost assessing the community level of risk and protection, which we do through these surveys, prioritizing those elevated risks and protective factors when determining what kind of activities we want to engage in, and matching those to our community. It's important for us to look at that and then implement certain programs and policies and practices with fidelity at those ages. So when we talk about transition to mobility, this is something that we need to think about too. And just to highlight for the community some of the things that we're doing as a school district and as a school community, first and foremost, the Plymouth Public Schools strategic plan, having the social emotional well-being of our students first and foremost, I think, is important, and that ties back to our school improvement plans. We're currently in the process of conducting a comprehensive review of our health, education, and practices. We have second step curriculum at the elementary level. We've hosted social host liability programs, drug panel discussions, Rachel's Challenge, Chris Herring. These are just a number of different examples, a small sample of what we do on an annual basis to sort of to get in the get ahead of some of these issues. The Plymouth Family Network, while people may not realize, that's our first connectedness, I think, with the community and connecting families with resources. So that's a good resource for us as well as other connections we've made in the community with the Chamber, Care and Treatment Center, Cape Cod Community College, local mental health facilities, the work of PYDC and the collaborations that we have there with a lot of our organizations, and most recently the Healthy Plymouth Opportunities Program that we started last year, and that will continue to expand. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that I may be able to, if anyone has any.
Any questions?
A lot of information.
Dr. Sorensen, did you?
It's just so much to digest. There's so much in this report. What I was thinking about as I read it earlier today, and then again just now, we provide education. We've always thought that providing education to potential substance abuse is an effective prophylactic. So holding that aside, and I read here about the protective factors, and they're all pro-social, and I'm not clear as to what we mean by pro-social. It says community opportunities for pro-social involvement, community rewards for pro-social, family opportunities for pro-social. What exactly are they referencing here?
Want to take that?
Go ahead.
I think what they're trying to say is, are there positive societal opportunities for school-aged children to become involved in positive social interactions and activities. And I think this is really compounded when you really sit and talk with the kids, and they really do admit that beyond the school day, there are limits to them having pro-social activities that are very positive, that can help them become involved in something that is very nurturing, and will actually lead them to becoming involved in very structured type of activities.
So let's link those 2 points together then. The previous point was that we are in the business of education, and we bring in speakers, and we put on programs, and we invite groups to sit and listen, sort of in a passive way, and we educate them, and we think that's a prophylactic measure. And it probably is, and I'm not saying we don't do it, but now we're learning what you just said, Dr. Mason, that our time and energy could be better spent by creating a connection, you know, a social connection in a positive way.
If I could give an example that I think has made a significant difference, although it's an introduction to this exact thing, is the coffee houses that are being done. And when you take a look at, first of all, it gives our children an opportunity, our students, an opportunity to express themselves through music. But not only is it an opportunity for them to showcase their skills, but a whole segment of kids go to watch and be part of that environment, and it's a very nurturing environment. So that's just one example, and I think that the same discussion we've had at PYDC, and it's how do we look at creating more and more opportunities for students to get engaged and involved beyond the school day, where they're compelled to go, and it's not us forcing them to go. It's an opportunity. They make a decision, they'll get there. So you're absolutely right.
This data tells us that's the direction we ought to be heading.
Yep.
Thank you.
And I thought also, this keeps coming up, we have it on the advocacy agenda, you know, a list of things to look at, but this recurring theme of rethinking the way we do the health classes, when we do the health classes, how forceful the message gets out there. Like, your numbers here tonight show that the biggest drop was with tobacco, with cigarettes, was the biggest drop. And I can remember being in health class and seeing the pictures of black lung, and they really tried to scare, you know, the heck out of you. The same sort of thing with anti-drug programs and stuff. If we don't have the kids exposed to that, because we see that in your numbers, the perception that there's low risk to drug use and stuff like that, we need to correct the perception.
I agree.
I don't know how we do that.
Yes, I think
unfortunately,
it's right. It's early education. It's consistent education. I also think that some of our the changes to our law contribute to that. Personally, when a student is caught, you know, with marijuana, for example, and gets a ticket, it's sort of decriminalized in a sense, and I think I think our communities, you know, over the society's direction has led to some of that too, personally. But I think it is our responsibility as an educational institution to educate, you know, earlier, you know, in a developmentally appropriate way, and start that earlier, and get the message out as frequently as we can.
Dr. Myers.
You know, one of the things we discussed at our last PYDC meeting was transportation, and when you go to our schools, kids like being in the school. They like being there. If there's an activity, they'll stay. Our late buses have a limit. One of the things that we've discussed is how do we work with the regional transportation system, GATRA, to look at how they can enhance that coverage. And you know, our parents will call us, they'll tell us, you know, our late bus is a regional system. It doesn't drop them at the, you know, on the street. It drops them in a location, and parents have to come and pick them up from those locations. If there is a way for us to, down the road, look at how we can extend opportunities in our schools where there's more activities, the school system cannot be the sole provider for those activities. And that's one of the things that we're really trying to work on with PYDC is how does the community look at how do we help solve the problem opposed to the school system always looking for the opportunities. I think we have no problem being the organizers and the facilitators and the people that look at providing this, but I would love to see our students in our schools longer with enriching opportunities that are going to engage them so that they feel connected in a different way, opposed to being in the classroom receiving the 6-7 hours of curriculum. Well, now how do we have other opportunities for them to learn differently?
Right. And we have, because we are such a large town, we have completely different problems with reaching children, because in the north part of town, there are venues, like with the coffee houses you were talking about, there are plenty of venues to pick from that are because I know they like to stay away from schools because they want to give it a non-structured, less structured, so that it'll attract the kids. In the southern part of town, if it's not the school, there's really no venues. So it's a whole different group of problems. First of all, transportation. If you're out in the middle of the ponds of Plymouth, how are you getting a little later in the day, in the early evening, how are you getting to a venue?
It's a real problem.
It starts to become a problem. And those are the exact kids we want to reach. So. Okay, so I know we're going to talk about this a lot. And this is a perfect topic to really have with the school councils. I think doing this sort of a thing with the school councils and reaching out to all the different school councils and making sure this information is out there, and the more people you can enlist in the fight.
Are there some hard copies available?
Yes.
I'd love to have a hard copy of this.
We can get you that. Sure. And our principals have already discussed sharing this with their school councils, and we're just looking for permission to do so, and we actually asked them to wait until it was presented here, of course.
That's good.
Yeah. But they are eager to share this because it's important at all levels, and
what I'd like to do is I like to bring us, as we've talked about, all together with the school councils and have that conversation on a bigger scale, go back and forth. Yep.
Just on a ending point, this information is extremely important and valuable, not only for the content and us looking at shaping and forcing the discussion, but for possible grants. The data is extremely helpful for writing a compelling case for why we would need certain aspects to support some of these opportunities. So I think for us it's timely. We will continue to go down this road to investigate other opportunities, and we'll continue to have this discussion.
And just one last thing I can't emphasize enough, which I opened my remarks with, that I don't want the community to think that Plymouth has a unique problem in terms of what our students are participating in, or their, antisocial behaviors are more elevated, or this concern doesn't exist in other schools, in other communities. I think it's important that people realize that. I sit on a new recent addition to a board for a recovery school, and there are all kinds of communities at the table, affluent and otherwise, that participate in this. So this is a concern for all communities, and so it's not unique to Plymouth. But I think, as I said before, we're very transparent. We need to be transparent. We need to share this information, as you said, Mr. Begley, with our school council so that we can all be a part of the solution.
Because I think the biggest part of the solution is convincing them when they're young.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and that's where I think we need to really stress the getting out there. Yes. Okay. Very good. So we'll. Did you have anything else you wanted to add? No. So then we'll definitely circle back a lot on this, and
It's a lot of information.
it's a, yeah. I'm just trying to, before I say, there's a request for a break. But before, I just want to see how, we're going to have a long night. So we're like 15 minutes off schedule. So 5-minute break? Can we all do a 5-minute? 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Two policies this evening. We'll take the restraint prevention and behavior support policy. This policy is really the result of a change in the regulations by the Commonwealth Department of Education. It was originally written December 16th, 2014, and that revision will take effect 1/1/16. And what you see in front of you is pretty much the policy that comes to us from the state level. We tweaked it very, very little, I think, if anything at all, maybe 1 or 2 words. And council's gone over it rather thoroughly.
Very good. Do we have any questions on this on this policy? Yep, Ms. Badger?
I move that we approve the policy as presented.
Do I have a second? Mrs. Burgess seconds it. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Yes.
And similarly, in August of 2014, Massachusetts adopted the domestic violence leave, and we've pretty much adopted it from chapter and verse. Again, making just a few changes here and there so it would fit us better. Right? Like,
The only
Yes,
question I
think-
had on this one
Yes.
was, I would think that this would be covered under our bargaining contracts as benefits.
Which
No?
part, the
Dr. Gould?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I apologize.
we're discussing the Domestic Violence Leave Act that
Mhm.
was established in 2014, and the policy that's proposed here calls for unpaid leave. I think is that the part that we're questioning, and Mr. Begley's
They can use
concern is
Kind of
this
the whole, yeah, I thought kind of the whole thing, I thought would be covered more under, as a benefit under collective bargaining.
No,
It's a
that's
law.
it's the law.
This is coming from
It's the law.
this came from the
Yeah.
governor's office.
Exactly.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this wasn't,
No, you have to.
Sorry.
good.
the
So then-
district's, the individual decision at the district level is whether or not it's paid or unpaid, and the policy reads 15 days of unpaid domestic violence leave.
Okay, good. So then, do we have any further? No, sorry. Got ahead of myself. Thank you. A motion.
No, before I make the motion, I just want to make a note that it looks like we took these policies out of order.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm fine with that. Just make that note, and then I'll make the motion to approve the policy as written.
And do we have a second? Mrs. Burgess seconds it. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Did you want to say anything about the,
about what?
your first attachment was the actual report itself of what you're planning to review, what you're not?
Oh, wait.
You mean the schedule of policies that
yeah,
are coming
yeah,
up?
yeah.
No, that was just for your edification.
Okay. Then, we did the trips already, so now we're at the homeschooling plan approval.
Jumping ahead, sorry.
Yes, tonight we have 3 home education plans that have been reviewed by Dr. Halpin's office and meet the guidelines set forth by the Plymouth Public Schools, and I recommend approval.
Ms. Badger.
I move that we approve the home education plans as presented. Sorry, I was a little too.
And Ms. Hunt seconds it. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. The school fundraisers. Anybody have any question? Yes, Ms. Hunt.
I know you always look at me. I know I asked previously about updates. I still noticed that the boys soccer one that hasn't been updated since August, and I know it has the wrong contact information.
I actually pulled that, and the contact information on there is that. I can share that with you, but it is the correct contact information.
For not
Yep,
the first
signed by
ones.
that. Yep.
Oh, okay.
I can
No,
bring
I
that
spoke
to
to
you.
that person, and she
Oh, the
had nothing
signature
to
was
do
on
with
it.
it. Yeah, she said she had nothing to do with it.
I don't know. The signature was on it. I looked at that.
Okay, all right.
Yep. I can bring that.
Yeah, no,
to
I just noticed
to a
that the
future
dollar
meeting.
amount wasn't updated
Can
and,
you, which one are we on? Second one on the
the car
list?
wash.
Where'd it
What page that's on?
Let me look it up.
go? 11.
Thank you.
It's 3 from the bottom.
That's it. Right, so that one, the individual
Hmm.
that's listed there is the actual signature requested on the form, and I can bring that.
Yeah,
I have
no,
it
that's
dated
right.
August, so I would need that, I don't, yep, so we can
Yeah,
try to get that information.
okay.
Anybody else see anything that jumped out at you over the fundraisers? Okay. Then, reports and proposals from committee members, how come, Mrs. Dargy, how come that highlights?
Revised, why?
There's nothing in it.
There's nothing in it, I know. 'cause
Is that the
there
tool?
may have been a typo that I corrected.
Oh, okay,
It can be as simple as that.
okay, good. Anybody? Yep. I'll get her.
I was just gonna get a couple things. I went to the Pilgrim Area Collaborative meeting, and I brought back by law I have to bring back, which I just learned this year, the update, the yearly update. So I gave Dr. Maestas an electronic version. So if anybody wants one, I can send it to you. It's very interesting. It has how the cost saving piece is. It also has their enrollments and their objectives and budgets and all that stuff.
Digitally?
I do.
Good, then I'll
Yeah, okay. I'll send it to you. And then we're in the middle of contract negotiations in the collaborative as well. And they're also going to open, and I brought the pictures that they gave us, the Pilgrim Academy. It's extension. It's in the same place, but they're basically built onto it. So they'll be able to accommodate more classrooms and have more variety of classrooms as well, so that they can accommodate more kids. That will open after Christmas break or after winter break, and they'll have a grand opening in February. So I'll let everyone know the date if you're interested in going and seeing that. It's in Cottage Park. Right?
Okay,
Yeah.
because when I used to be, when it used to be at Pembroke.
Yeah. It's in there, so it's in the same place, so if anybody wants to see pictures. And then we had a biomedical meeting, council update, which was really good. We got to hear about what the kids are learning, and they found that it's a different kind of learning than the students have learned in the past. So there's a lot of teaching yourself, so it's more like preparing them for college than in your ordinary freshman classroom. So some kids are struggling with it, but everybody seems to really love it. They showed us some really cool diagrams. Kids are learning about diabetes, and so they had to show how insulin interacts with everything, and it was just very interesting. And obviously we had a committee people there from we have alumni and people from the hospital and all over. So it's really nice to hear what people want to bring to the program. And if anybody has any extra cardboard or any, they need cardboard boxes and stuff when they do their models. So that's one thing that they're looking for. And the next Plymouth alumni meeting is on January 21st at 6:15 at the Remax in the Benny's parking lot. So I think that's it. Oh, and we participated in the mud run, and it was really well organized by the Booster Club. And it was great. Everyone looked like they had a great time. My favorite was the guy in the white suit who came and did the mud run in his white suit.
My favorite was Cooper Fry.
That's it.
Yeah, Michelle and I worked we sold t-shirts.
Oh, good.
We worked in that booth,
Booth that you were talking about before,
the truck.
The trailer,
Yes.
yeah. Yep. Good, good.
I just wanted to say that I've been trying to get to those holiday concerts or whatever and they're calling them winter concerts. So this past week I got to PCIS's at North and North's at North, and I'll be going to South High and South Middle concert on Tuesday, the 22nd, yeah, tomorrow night. So that's kind of what I've been following up with right now. Every night I'm free, then I say, what concert is there tonight? And then
Very good. Anything else?
well, the building, that's all.
Yep. Anybody else? PYDC reports. So we had the minutes there, but would you like to give an overview of the last meeting?
Yes, the last meeting was very well attended. We probably had, I don't know how many people. I would say between 25, about 25 people, maybe more. And it was a meeting that, we, like you all know, we have a very strict agenda. We stick to it. And really going over, we had the video. Did we show a video?
About transportation.
Yeah, we had the kids at North High School did a documentary on the dilemmas of transportation through their eyes.
Oh, okay.
And it's pretty interesting about them and their concerns about keeping their jobs that they have, because we're talking about transportation from their homes to their obligations and then coming to school, and talking about how they don't like coming to school late, but they don't have transportation, getting to their jobs. So it was pretty interesting, and that was done by the alternative kids at North High School. And so we had a conversation about that, and we had GATRA was at the meeting, a representative from GATRA, and they were really highlighting their dilemmas on transportation, because they there has to be subscribership, ridership to actually get a bus or a vehicle to a location, but it's only for a window of time. That there isn't going to be 15 minutes later another one coming, or 20 minutes later another one coming. So,
Can't count on it.
I think Plymouth poses geographic issues not only for us but for them as well, and so they have to have the numbers, and they're all grant driven. So it's a state funded program. So I mean, it's kind of the same discussion, but at least we're having the discussion with Gratford. They've actually added a couple of stops to get students to North. South is a dilemma, though, so we talked about that. It was a great roundtable discussion about transportation and getting more options available for kids.
Dr. Sorensen.
The PYDC meeting, very timely with the discussion we had tonight, the data that Chris presented about, like, for example, open gym we're talking open gym at one of the schools, and after-school programs, and getting kids connected. I mean, it's exactly what the data tells us we should be doing. Yeah. So I was really pleased to read that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of very pertinent discussions. I think the highlight really is, our group is really invested. We had both legislators there, Matt Muratori and Representative Muratori and State Senator DiMacedo, and they talked about the work that they're doing legislatively to try to change some of these issues regarding the opiate epidemic. We had Peter Holden spoke about some significant movement that's happening in healthcare, and gave a perspective on that. I'll tell you, it was a compelling meeting. If you have an opportunity to come to one of these meetings, I think you'll be very motivated with the movement that we're trying to make in our community to bring some of these things forth. Dr. Campbell has more.
One other thing to highlight, as Dr. Meissen said, we're trying to bring the students in to this conversation. We actually have student representatives that come to the meetings as well. People in the community can hear it from us, but when they hear it from the kids, it's really that much more powerful. Another thing that Mr. Capel was able to work on last year is this project called Photo Voice. and what they essentially do with Photo Voice. And it was through another agency that we worked on that project, but with our alternative school students, as they went out into the community, they given quality cameras and they took photos or staged photos that meant something to them. So, seeing a needle at a playground, or beer bottles or liquor bottles distributed in the front lawn of someone's home. So these photos also have some small writing samples that go with them, so the words of the students and through the eyes and the voice of the kids. Actually, that weekend, Peter Holden used them at some event with the hospital. So they're beautiful, and we can bring them here at some point so that you can see them and have Mr. Capel speak to the project. But it's a nice way to, whenever we're out, again, connecting that. So if we're doing an event, regardless of what it is, we could set up a display and have these on display so that people are aware. It's more of an awareness campaign.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, reports from the building committee.
Yeah, I'm going to begin, but I forgot my paperwork, so it's going to Mr. Sorensen, who has his. But anyway, we had the groundbreaking for the new town hall on Friday. Gary was there, and I was there, and but it was well attended. It went well, and so we're off. That's all officially.
Still waiting for the invitation.
We're
still waiting for our invitation.
What, to the groundbreaking?
Yeah.
It's in the mail.
They didn't.
But we're not sore
no,
about it.
They didn't. Yeah, they didn't. I forget
Doesn't
how I
matter,
got
doesn't matter.
mine. I think it was
Building
through.
committee.
Building
I
committee.
think it came through the procurement department, didn't it? Just
Building
by
committee.
email.
Yeah,
Came through the
because you're-
To the
building
building committee. Yeah, that's it.
I just saw there was a lot of other folks there in the paper.
Yeah, you're right. But even the building committee wasn't the important piece there anyway. So
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, it's okay.
Just
We
wanted to
were
take the
we were
shot
yeah.
and
You-
then
the
move
other
on.
shot- My other shot was that the building committee, which is dealing with it all the time, was thrust in the background. So don't feel bad.
Okay, I'll just quickly review. I'll just review our last meeting. Plymouth South, as if you've been there, you see the steel is going up, and I reported to the building committee at that meeting that I talked to a couple of teachers at South, and they spoke very positively of how well construction has been planned. It hasn't interfered with students or traffic, and the trucks come and go, and
Bless you.
they can see the steel, and that's it. They don't even, that's excellent. And I also talked to a teacher from Plymouth South Middle School, and I got a similar response, that it's going the way we planned. So the steel is going up. Now they need 3 days of under 40 degrees to pour a slab, and they can't pour a slab now because they're not ready. So now they're worried they will not get the slab in this winter. But with global warming, you never can tell. The next project we discussed real quickly was the Sims house, and that house is going through major changes in its specs, and it's even zoned for. The whole area is zoned for single-family homes, so this idea of having a little place to have meetings and/or a wedding or something is not working into the zoning, so that's a big problem over there. So the town hall will be completed July 2017. Ms. Burgess just spoke about that. Update a few other quick ones. White Horse Beach Restoration Facility, Conservation has okayed it. It's now going before the Health. And it also has funding problems. The Harbor Masters new facility will be on town meeting in the spring, and that's a big funding question. The Plymouth North Fire Station, they're looking for land because they have to get out of the building they're in because it's too small, the rigs are too big, and there's really no piece of property in Plymouth North at this point. Because I offered my property, but they weren't interested, the price was too high. The Airport Administration Building and the parking garage, there's no changes in either one of those.
Very good. Wow, there's a lot going on around town.
We had a lot of projects.
Yeah. Appointments, leaves of absence, and resignations. Dr. Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Begley. We have 49 classified appointments. I think we just got a lot of the winter appointments all at one time. One that was coach and advisor, excuse me, 1 classified appointment, 1 unpaid leave of absence, and 3 resignations.
Very good, thank you. Accounts payable warrant, Ms. Badger.
Whereas school committee members have been provided with a copy of the cost center transfer and transaction summary report and warrant for review, I move the Plymouth School Committee accept and approve the reports and accounts payable warrant S-12-24-15 dated December 24th, 2015 in the amount of $1,690,991.72 as presented.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Well,
Mr. Morgan seconds it. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. I'm sorry.
Get
She,
your spot.
she threw my rhythm off there. Right. Minutes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
October 5th, minutes from October 5th. Any comments or, yes, Ms. Badger?
I was trying to say, I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
And second it? Ms. Hunt seconds it. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Next one is October 19th. Any comments, feedback? Ms. Hunt?
well, I'm trying to catch up. I think that might be one I have notes on, yes. Nope. Which one is it? November, not November
October
2nd.
19th.
Okay, no,
Next one.
next one.
What did I do here? I did.
Oh.
Why does October 19th
Yeah, it
open up
doesn't
to
matter.
No, it's
October
the
5th?
same notes. That's what I had. Isn't it this, it's the same one
Yeah,
we just voted on?
October 5th is opening up on October 19th.
There weren't any October 19th minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can't do October 19th tonight.
Okay.
So let's do November 2nd. Yes, Ms. Hunt.
Under old business, Ms. Hunt suggested having a published supply list at the beginning of the summer is listed twice in 2 different paragraphs.
Ms. Badger.
On page 4, under new business, it says, Mr. Bagley mentioned his desire to share the load and he volunteered to take on the collaborative meeting. It should be take on the Plymouth North meetings on her behalf.
Thank you. Any others? We have a motion then? Mr. Morgan,
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as corrected.
do we have a second? Ms. Hunt seconds it. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. So the next one we have, November 16th.
I
Ms.
move
Badger.
that we approve the minute. Oh,
Sorry.
Go
So
ahead.
is that inappropriate?
We could do it under further discussion, but she was only in mid-sentence.
I don't know if we can change this sentence or not, but I really hope that I did not say it this way. Under old business, Ms. Hunt noted that Mrs. DeGravio was most likely responsible. I would rather it said also responsible. I think I was saying that it was both of them, not, I hope I didn't say it that way, or I hope it didn't come across the way that it's written. Does everybody know what I mean? I don't really want to read the whole
I remember
thing.
that distinctly.
oh,
Yeah.
because you meant to say it, and
I,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
meant to
remember
say,
that.
I know.
And you were like,
I want to thank Mrs. DeGravio for doing it, but without discarding Mr. Riley's work. I love them both.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any others?
Detroit, New Orleans.
Then, motion. You were about to do a motion.
I move to approve the minutes of November 16th with the correction. Right?
Yep, with the correction. Seconded by Ms. Hunt. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. And now we have,
May I ask who seconded that?
Seconded by
Point
Ms.
of order, Dr. Sorensen was absent that meeting, so he can't vote.
Yeah, you were on the 16th? Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm not supposed to vote on the 16th. I thought you were still voting the 2nd.
one
So
abstention.
I will have an abstention
Um,
for Dr. Sorensen.
That's correct.
On
Good
Thank
the
you.
Good eye.
16th,
Got you
correct.
covered.
16th,
On the 30th.
so,
So now,
oh, excuse me, I have to revote that. Because I clicked the wrong button. Give me 1 second. Sorensen, abstain,
I know, I don't know what I was thinking.
ups, sorry. Yeah. Better, okay. Thank
okay.
you.
The 30th, November 30th
Yeah,
now.
I have something.
Mrs. Burgess.
On page 6 at the top, it's a continuation of the head school presentation. And down below, I was asking about the backpack program and why it wasn't at Hedge every week, and she explained how she took care of it. And it said that Dr. Sorensen cautioned Mrs. Wilson about the size of the program. When he said that, he was saying that about the food bank program, not about the backpack program. The food bank is mentioned up above.
Correct.
And I checked it with him, so.
Just clarity on that statement.
Huh?
Clarity on that statement.
Clarity.
Probably just start a new paragraph. Mrs. Wilson said the program feeds 40 students, and that'll fix it.
Thank you.
But, no, that, the program feeds 40, that's on the backpacks, but you were talking about the food pantry.
Right.
So, it was talking about the food pantry up above. It's about the food pantry that he made the comment, not about the backpack program.
They'll do a
We can
clarification.
Yeah,
clarify it.
okay.
Killing the Saints already. When I picked New Orleans.
That's something we want to talk about further anyway.
Yes, I know that,
Retreat.
but, yeah.
Okay.
It's also now at other schools, too, I find.
Yeah, so we want to get in front of
We have
this.
to get in front of it, yeah.
So, do I have a motion on this one?
I'll move it with the correction.
With the correction. We have a second? Dr. Sorensen seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Don't disagree.
And an abstention? One abstention.
Hold on, what was it? I jumped the gun.
I abstained. Did.
Me,
She jumped the gun. How do you jump
Ms.
over?
Badger,
Yep, I abstained.
thank you. Okay.
Okay. 10:01. All right, so now we have, our final item is about Plymouth South Middle School obsolete equipment. Dr. Maestas.
Yes, tonight we have one photocopier, Savin. It's beyond repair and on the school committee agenda tonight for disposal, and I recommend approval.
Do we still call it that? Photocopy? Did you date yourself there?
That's my term, not what's written.
Yes, I saw a hand starting to go.
I was waiting.
No?
I'm happy. I didn't know if somebody else.
Motion? Somebody give?
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second.
Approve the disposal of equipment.
I'll second it.
And
Keep my
seconded by
hands down.
Mrs. Burgess. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Okay.
And that was a long night, but
No, not really. Doesn't
got
sound
through
too
that.
bad.
Not 10:30.
I had to go home and
Still
make some
finished ahead of
cookies.
So then, without objection, we're adjourned at 9:15.
Yeah, I want
Oh, I
to,
know, I
definitely, I'll
miss-
be in, so I'll be in.